Now we got it working. All right, very good morning, everybody, from the flight deck. It's Cap speaking. I'd like to welcome you on board Alaska Airlines Flight 303 service today from the Dallas DFW Fort Worth Airport down to Portland, Oregon. Weather in Portland today is going to be a pretty nice day overall. Right now the temperature is 18 degrees Celsius. It's in the 70s Fahrenheit, and overall looks like it's going to be clear skies, light winds. We expect a smooth ride today, and welcome you on board. Good morning, everybody, from the flight deck once again here with Captain Naps, and welcome on board again. We are here in DFW, as you can tell, and we are going to go to Portland this morning. So let's get the show on the way, because it is a little bit of a long flight this morning. It's about 4 hours flight, so we do want to get going here. And Hayden UK, good morning to you. Happy to have you hang out for as long as you can. If you can't stay for long, that's no big deal. I will post this stream on YouTube within the next couple days, so you'll be able to catch up anything you missed. But nice to have you here anyways for whatever length of time you can stay. So yeah, as you can see, we're taking the trusty 737 from Alaska Airlines. It looks just absolutely beautiful, and as you can see as well, compared to when we arrived in DFW, the scenery works perfectly. For those of you that watched the last stream or the end of the last stream, we had a few scenery issues. Thank you, Microsoft Flight Simulator. When we got to DFW, about half the scenery tiles at the airport didn't load, and as a result, at one point on the landing roll, we hit the edge of a scenery tile and catapulted up into the air. It was absolutely wonderful, beautiful landing, and yeah, half the scenery tiles were missing, so we had very low-res scenery everywhere. So it's nice to see. As soon as I reloaded the airport, I exited back to the main menu, reloaded the airport. It worked fine. So it's some kind of a glitch where half the scenery tiles, for whatever reason, did not load, refused to load at any point in time, and it created an absolutely horrible experience. And Squibbly, yeah, unfortunately for you, I hate to say this, but for the time being, I am not going to be streaming on weekends anymore. I hate to say it, but my personal schedule for the summer is going to be working every weekend. I can pretty much guarantee that now. The 1 or 2 weekends I may be able to get off. I'm not going to be. I'm not going to dedicate time to streaming. Nothing personal, but I'm going to hopefully get 1 or 2 weekends off for camping and the like. But yeah, I basically am going to be. I basically am going to be working every single weekend all summer long. Maybe come fall we could change things up again, but that's just the way it is. So I hope you can catch me if you got some vacation at some point. We'll try and work something out. I'll try to make sure I'm available during those weeks. But anyways, let's hop in the flight deck, because I don't want this to take this too long. We got a long flight ahead of us here, and let's just get some power established on this aircraft here that we just got into. All right, so let's get that battery on, and of course they don't even have the ground power hooked up. Maybe it's me. Usually you should hear a little something there. I realized after I filmed the last stream that it was very quiet. Annoyingly quiet. So I'm going to pay a little bit more attention today to try and make sure that we have the that we have an appropriate volume going on today. Because yeah, I noticed on the last stream that it was quite quiet. All right, there is ground power. There we go. Let's start setting up.
Roger.
So today, I believe we've had this guy before. I can't remember, honestly, which guys we've had in the flight deck. So today I'm going to start at the top, and we're just going to go through them in order now. So I'm starting with Dean, the Australian, and we're just going to go through the whole list in order and make sure we work with everybody at the airline here. I can't remember. I know I've flown with a bunch of these guys before. I can't remember some of them, whether I have or not. So we're just going to go through it the easy way, just in order. I'd like to hear all the voices, get that whole sense of different people flying with all the time. So. All right, let's get this show on the road here. So we are going to need some gas. Definitely get some gas.
Is on its way.
And let me know again.
Load aircraft until the fuel truck arrives and ask to do
how the audio balance is. Like, to me, that sounds pretty good. It sounds like they're quiet-ish, but they're not like so quiet you can't hear them. But on the last stream, I felt like it was a little bit loud, and they were kind of overshadowing my talking. So, and really, you're here to listen to me, not the computer have voices, right? That's the theory, anyways. All right. Anywho, let's just make sure we've got those on. How's the temperature in the cabin right now? Let's check the actual cabin. Ooh, it's warm in the cabin today. Let's see if we can actually request an air conditioning unit, because that'll help cool that cabin down. Let's get the packs go into auto, and don't need that on. We need that open. All right. I'd say we got everything ready there. Let's go ahead.
Fuel truck is in position.
Let's get some
Please
fuel
don't
first.
load aircraft until the fuel truck. Please use your airplane fuel system to set the desired fuel quantity.
All right. So let's have a look at our flight plan for today. Show me the flight plan. Sim brief panel. Quite straightforward, but it does work really well. All right. Block fuel for today to go from DFW to PDX 25.7. So we're basically going to round it up to 26 tons. An extra 300 pounds is not unusual. Sorry, 13 tons, 26,000 pounds. But an extra 300 pounds of fuel definitely would be within normal tolerances. Most of the time, the fuelers like to go over just a little bit, because especially if you start the APU early, they don't want to come back and give you more fuel just because you burn a little bit extra. So they tend to go a little bit over. They don't want to be under. Nobody wants them to be under. Want to be close to the target as possible, but usually a little bit over is considered acceptable. So they usually go a target to be a little bit over. All right, so let's get this show on the road here. Let's go. He's doing his thing. You can hear him kind of setting off some switches here. If I could actually click the button. There we go. We can actually get started. All right, so let's bring this down here like this so you guys can see. And you know what I realize, of course, as I always do, I'm not here yet, but there I am. Good morning, everybody. Welcome on board the stream. And yeah, I feel like the color's a little bit weird there. It's a little bit better now. It's a little bit too white and blue, but anywho. Yeah, welcome aboard the stream, everybody. So let's get this show on the road here. We've got our 737-800 today with AirAct 2305, May 18th to June 15th. That is current for another couple of days, and 26,000 pound engines. All right, let's get
heading out for the walk around.
GPS. Thank you, Dean. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've flown with Dean before. All right, so we've got our IRSs set up and aligning. Let's do our route. The route today is not too bad, actually, considering it's a fairly long route, but there's not all that many waypoints on it. KDFW to KPDX. And today's flight number is Alaska 303. All right, so departing out of KPDX, departing out of KDFW, sorry. Let's pull this over here, and let's have a look at our flight plan. And actually, it's even right down there at the bottom. There's the routing right there, see? Smart, easy, all the information at your fingertips. You don't even have to leave the sim, and I imagine for VR pilots especially, this would be a really useful feature. So we're doing the Hudad 2 departure today. The proposed runway for departure 17 right. Realistically, for a northwestbound departure, the winds are 360 at 4. So I'm going to go with actually 36 right. It's a bit of a long taxi, but that's most likely what you would end up doing here. So 36 right, Hudad 2 departure. And from there, we're going to Hudad direct Papa November Hotel, direct Alpha Lima Sierra, and this one at North 35 by West 101. Sounds smart. ALS, I feel like I should know that one. Alamosa, that's right, yeah, Alamosa, North 37, West 105, that makes sense. Junction, JNC, that's Grand Junction. Then we do a Jet 15 as far as IMB, and direct Jotba for the Hood 4. Alright, Jotba, and then arrive Portland. The planned arrival runway 28 right. I'll put in 28 right now, and we'll figure it out later when we get a little closer in. Hood 4 arrival via Jotba. That's the one, Jotba. Alright, there's a discon. That's fine. It's at the far end after our arrival. We'll get that eventually. And, alright, so there's our route per Finit. And Squibbly says that smoke's strong today. Looks like you're flying away from it. Tomorrow's supposed to be worse with the winds. Yeah, I just walked the kids to school, and it does. It smells like a campfire everywhere. It's crazy right now. This whole world has just gone insane. And it's been that way. There's been a lot of forest fires going on this year. I was going to talk about that once we get going. My goal is to get going here, just because it's a long stream. Get going here, and we can chat about the weather, as would be the most Canadian thing to do. 126.2 is the planned ZFW.
Hi, the security and safety check are all done. Are we good to start boarding?
Go for it. Go for it.
Thanks.
All right. So since she started boarding...
Refueling truck is on its way.
Oh, not the refueling truck. I want to just move this thing.
Please don't load aircraft until the fuel truck arrives and ask to do it.
Well,
Boarding requested.
apparently the fuel truck's going to come back now. Okay, let's see here. Total reserves, that's where we were at. Total reserves, 5.207. 5.2 is very good for me. Cost index of 5. Really? Cost index of 5? That's it? We're going to crank that up once we get going here. When I originally planned this, I actually planned it at a higher cost index, and I replanned it this morning at a lower cost index, apparently. Didn't mean to. All right, 340 is the altitude for today. And cruise winds, 143 at 26. The other thing that's really kind of crazy about the weather lately is the winds have been very sort of all over the map. There's going from Montreal to Toronto, a tailwind. And
Crew?
yes,
Pilot's boarding starting.
Yeah, it's been a little bit all over the map. It's been a little bit odd.
Please don't
to say the
load
least.
aircraft until the fuel truck.
Average
Please use your
ISA plus
airplane fuel system
4.
to set the desired fuel quantity.
So 4 above 52 is minus 48 be the cruise temperature. Perfect. We can execute that. N1 limit. Let's see if I have my performance calculator here. And you'd think I would prep these things ahead of time. In the real world, though, we mostly just use the ACARs anyways. Almost everybody uses ACARs for grabbing the most efficient,
Please use your airplane
effective
fuel
numbers.
system to set the desired fuel quantity.
All right. I tell you what. We'll put in 100 more pounds so that it does something and goes away.
Crew
26,000.
boarding starting.
100. There we go. Now it's going to put in 100 more pounds of fuel, and then it'll go away. Let me just see here. 36 right. 143. Sorry. 014. Outside air temperature in DFW 23 and QNH 2990. Yeah, we can probably do a flap 5 departure. Takeoff weight. Where's my takeoff weight here? Estimated takeoff weight 151,400. I'll go with 152,000 just to be safe. Of course, I forgot to switch it to imperial units because I always do. And let's see if we can do a D-rate 2. Nope. D-rate
Your
takeoff
crew has
1.
boarded.
Nope.
Passengers
Gotta be a
boarding
takeoff.
starting.
All right, and it looks like we could do a temperature, pre-selected temperature of 38 with no D-rate. And let's see here, flaps 5, 41, 43, 150, that works for me. 43, 150, the CFG will autofill 24.6, and we'll go to page 2 and put in a standard 1,000 acceleration height, 1,000 thrust reduction height. All right. And there we go. We've got the FMS pretty much all set up here and ready to go. We can, I don't think I need you anymore, Sim Brief panel. You're pretty easy to load anyways. Install test. Things are all good. I was about to say, I was literally about to say, I don't hear the GSX loading, and then I heard a couple of hellos there. I was literally about to go just check and see if GSX was actually loading.
I'm back. There are no issues on the walk around. Good aeroplane.
All right. Looks like the temperature is starting to come down in the cabin. It's a little bit below 80 now. So it is coming down there nicely. And yeah, we'll probably get the air conditioning going here in a second anyways because the fueling is done. So yeah, why don't we go ahead and just throw on the AP now. We're going to be there. We're going to be done, ready to go here. Most airlines, it depends on the airline, but most of the time the standard is like 10 minutes before departure. Unless you need the air conditioning or electricity sooner, most airlines it's usually about 10 minutes before departure. They want you to have the what am I trying to say here? They want you to have the AP running so that the ramp guys have time to disconnect the power before the before departure. Give them a few minutes to get it done before departure. He's literally adjusting it right now. He just made it here at 35,000, so he's going through the overhead flow at the same pace that I am. He's got that moved over, perfect. All right, let's just test everything. There's a lot of lights on this airplane. All right, and let's just test the. Let's use the altimeter here. It's 2990. He's got that already set for me here. TCAS is on there. Flight director's on. And 150 for V2. So let's go 150 in there. And 36 right. I'll figure out the runway heading here in 1 second. Yeah, I think all the smoke is bothering me.
Here's the fuel slip.
Thanks.
Welcome. Have a
I've
nice
noticed
flight.
that I'm sneezing quite a little bit more today than the last day or so than normal. I think the smoke is also getting to my sinuses a little bit. All the more reason to stay inside today and play with VATSIM. I mean, seriously simulate an airline operation. All right, DFW. Sid. What are we on? We're on the Hoodad, right? Here it is, Hoodad. Alright, so initial runway heading is 356, and it's 10,000 is the top altitude. So 356, 10,000 top altitude. Looks like the LNAV and the VNAV are ready to go. Alright, and I think we're just about ready here. 2990. Got all the switches there. Park and brake is set. Make sure that these both work. They do. I didn't even hear him do the fire test, so let's do the fire test. Beautiful. No ATC yet, but the day is young. There's some Kansas City Center. I think we're going to skirt through the corner of their zone, so hopefully they'll still be there once we get going here to talk to. I'm just going to put 2,000 on the transponder. And I think we're good to go. Pre-flight checklist.
Pre-flight checklist. Oxygen.
Tested 100%.
Tested 100%. Navigation, transfer, and display switches. Normal, auto. Window heat, on. Pressurization mode selector, auto. Flight instruments.
Heading 219. Altimeter 2990.
Heading 219. Altimeter 2990. Parking brake.
Set.
Engine start levers.
Cut off.
Pre-flight checklist completed.
I don't know why it's crooked here. I'm going to paint my headset here. So anyways, alright.
Flight director's on.
Are you ready for the takeoff briefing?
Go ahead.
Alright, so today we're departing from, let's see here. I believe we're gate Echo 11 here in DFW. So we're going to push back from the gate. We're going to taxi for departure runway 36 right, because that would be the normal departure runway for northwest bound departures. So once we get going here, we're going to push back from the gate, probably go out, let's say spot 45, and down Kilo Bravo, and Golf Whiskey Quebec, I guess, to get us over to runway 36 right for departure. Departure today is the Hoodad to our nav departure, 60-3 Mike for Dallas Fort Worth International. Notes, no special notes on the plan. Radar, DDI, GPS, turbojets only, and yeah. So departing off runway 36 left, or 36 right specifically, heading 356 to 1120, then direct across Haskell. Where am I here? Haskell at or above 5,000, which is what I've got. Then on track 277 to Tului. Then on track 255 to Piglet, 278, 256 to Piglet, Tully, Piglet, and then after that, it's as published, it's Muti and Hudad. That's all there. Terrain around here, 3600 is the MSA around the DFW airport weather. It looks like a beautiful day outside, blue skies, not too much haze and smoke down here. Operational, I've got no MELs on the aircraft, no TAMs. I didn't actually check yet. I was going to check that, and then I got distracted with one more thing before I had to get going on the stream. And before you know it, it's streaming time. So let's have a quick look at those no TAMs here. Oh. And this might be a little bit hard to read. So honestly, I'm going to switch to this because it's just a little bit easier to read. I find the no tabs in this format, especially because they bold certain aspects of it, which makes it a little bit easier to read. So, 3-5 right, guard lights unserviceable. 3-5 left, guard lights unserviceable. That's fine. Guard lights I don't care about. Markings not standard. Position signs faded. This is the kind of thing that's like, there's so much stuff in here that is it's relevant, but it's not terribly important. And that's the hard part, is screening out the important from the unimportant. When look at how many no tabs there are for DFW here. It's a huge airport, so lots of stuff, but like lots of stuff like obscured, non-standard, edge lighting not working at certain taxiways. What I need to know is what taxiways are actually closed. Kilo between Alpha and Echo Romeo closed. See, now that could impact us here. I think we're gonna have to go down Lima then. Between Alpha and Echo Romeo. No, it's down here. This is part that's close. Okay, see, but this is where it suddenly starts to become very relevant. Let's do this. Let's get this over here so I can see these both at the same time. Sierra, okay, that doesn't affect us. Just looking for taxiways that I think we're going to use. Between spot 38 and terminal C spot 43. So part of Kilo's closed up here, but that's also not going to affect us. Good. So there is some stuff in here. It's not going to affect us. I think we're good. It's like just trying to go through this fast enough, especially like in the flight planning room, you'll have a little bit of extra time, but like just look at the number of NOTAMs here. I've probably read through 50 NOTAMs. I've read through like 4 pages already, and I've only made it through the airport NOTAMs. I haven't made it to the runways yet. 3, 5, let's see here, 18 left, 3, 6 right. Not groove or part of its length. That's fine. We can deal with that. SIDS. Let's see here. We're on the Hudad 2. Takeoff minimums 13 left, 17 centers, and 31 center. I don't see anything that affects us. Okay, good, but it took that long just to go through the NOTAMs. All right. Any questions?
No questions.
Hey guys, all packs are on board. Are we clear to close?
Go for it. Yes. Yes, it will be a long taxi.
Checked.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
Yes, it will be a long taxi. Good to close long taxi. Cleared to close long taxi. I give up on this one.
Departure checks completed. Bypass pin inserted.
Yes. Yes. Thanks, it'll be a long taxi. Seems to be stuck. Before start checklist.
Stand by.
Alright, so she seems to be getting a little stuck there. But
Locking gear.
Checked.
Before start checklist.
Before start checklist. Flight deck door closed and locked. MCP.
Speed 150, heading 356, altitude 10,000. Speed 150, heading 356, altitude 10,000. Altitude 10,000.
Takeoff speeds.
V1 141, PR 143, V2 150.
CDU pre-flight.
Completed.
Rudder and aileron trim.
3 and 0.
Taxi and takeoff briefing.
Completed.
Anti-collision light on before start check is complete.
Alright, so before we get going here, just need to do a couple things here. We just need to make sure that our actual ZFW matches what's actually in the airplane. So we got our final numbers here. So payload ZFW is actually 135.1, quite a bit heavier than SimBrief planned on. That's okay. We'll verify the takeoff speeds. Now it's 46, 47, 53, and it's 5.12 on the trim. So 153 on the speed, and 5.1 on the trim. And the arc remove external power.
Release parking brakes, please.
Alright. Bleed is on. Cabin's cooled off nicely. Alright, I think we're ready to go.
Commencing
Brakes
push.
are off, ready for pushback. Delay
All
can start to
engines
advise.
clear. Start at will.
Start sequence is 2, then 1.
Check.
Don't drive into me, please.
Roger.
Still one of those super amazing pushes there. Don't even know what you're doing. Where are we going, buddy? You just have to laugh at it sometimes. It's usually a pretty good system, but every once in a while you get a gate where it just doesn't quite figure out how to push back nicely. And then it just does that. Start engine 2.
Starting engine 2.
I don't know if it was because the PMDG equipment hadn't been removed yet or what, but boy, that was a little aggressive anyways.
Oil pressure.
That's fun too. Look at this, all these vehicles bouncing over this bridge here. Up and down. Sometimes you just gotta suspend your disbelief a little bit here.
Starter cutout.
It looks good.
Number 2 is stable.
Start engine 1.
Please set parking brakes.
Start engine. Start engine 1.
Starting engine 1.
Alright, brakes are set,
Rocket
front
to
pin's
ground.
removed.
We have a good engine. Start. You can disconnect.
Oil pressure.
Hear it too. You can just hear that little rumble in the background, and I do like it. It feels good. It sounds good. That little rumble in the background as those engines start. It's faint, it's subtle, it's there.
Unlocking gear.
You can almost feel it more than you hear it because it's such a kind of a low, such a low frequency. All right.
3 minutes. Starter cut out.
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass pin removed.
Number 1 stable.
Left is clear. Right is clear.
Flaps 5. Flight control check.
Ready.
Full left. Full right. Center. Full up. Full down. Center. Full left. Full right. Center. Flight control check complete. Before taxi checklist.
B4 taxi checklist. Generators on. Propane on. Anti-ice off. Isolation valve auto. Engine start switches continuous. Recall.
Checked.
Checked. Auto brake. RTO. Engine start levers.
Idle detent.
Flight controls.
Checked.
Ground equipment.
Clear.
Clear. B4 taxi checklist complete.
Clear on the left.
Clear right.
DFW traffic. Alaska 303 is parked at Concourse Echo. Be taxiing Kilo Alpha for departure runway 36 right. Alright, so we're going to take the first spot here on the left to get out because it's closed over there somewhere, but it's good here. And away we go. We're underway. Let's just double check as well. So first of all, looks like I am getting some readout up top there. 5 knots, 6 knots of ground speed. That looks good. And the other thing, of course, you want to check is make sure is that we are flight simulator connected. Flight stage pre-flight. It should figure out in a second that we're taxiing. I hope. I wonder if it has like a speed threshold that has to reach like 10 knots or something. You see, it still says pre-flight, but it knows that we're connected. It knows we're doing something, so it should hopefully detect our flight here. Alright, we're going to take the first line out of the ramp here. And in the real world in DFW, all you do is you taxi to the edge of the ramp here, and then you sit on the spot number and you wait on the ground frequency. And the guy in the tower will just look up and down. So there's the tower over there. The guy will look up and down here, and as he sees aircraft taxiing into a spot, he'll just call out the spot number. And it saves a lot of congestion of different people trying to get a hold of the tower. It's one big... There we go. It did switch to taxi out once we had moved far enough from our original location. It's a sensible procedure, actually, at a very big and busy airport, because it saves a lot of people trying to get a word in, and then you get the one guy who just can never seem to get a word in edgewise, and he's sitting there for 5 to 10 minutes before somebody notices him and actually asks him where he's going to go. So, because we don't have any ATC online, we're not going to bother stopping there at the spot, but we would have stopped there at the spot just at the edge of the apron and waited for ground to call us. We would have piped up with our flight number, and that would have been it. You just call out like spot 45, just be like Alaska 303 with information, Bravo. And they'd be like, all right, Alaska 303, 368, blah, 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 taxi instructions. It's a good way to do it. It's a smart way to handle it at a busier airport. It can be a tough thing to get a word in edgewise at a busy airport, and it's also a constant distraction to the controllers. New people trying to constantly call you on frequency and get your attention. It's not a bad thing per se, but there's a lot going on, and sometimes controllers need to maintain control of their frequency. And the best way to do it is to be the only person who makes initial calls. I call you. Don't call me. I call you when I'm ready for you. So by having these spots, that's the way for people to sort of politely just tiptoe forward and just say I'm ready, without actually having to break in on frequency and possibly interrupt the controller while he's in the middle of something else or talking to somebody else. So it's a procedure that makes a lot of sense on a lot of ways, but. Satellite terminal here in the corner. Give them just a couple of extra gates. Apparently they are going to build a new concourse now in DFW. I was reading this in the news just a little while ago, but apparently there is a concourse F now coming to DFW. Right now concourse F is basically a parking lot. So the way the airport is labeled, if you look at the map there from north to south, top left is A, top right is B, middle left is C, middle right is, or sorry, it's the other way around, isn't it? Sorry. This side is A, C, E. Anyways, because we were parked at Concourse E here, Concourse F on the far side, so across from where Concourse E would be on the west side of the field, right now is a parking lot. I think it's a long-term stay parking lot. They are going to apparently develop that now into a terminal. They've reached a capacity constraint with the airport to the point where they need to build a new concourse. So apparently Concourse F is gonna get built over the next, I don't know how many years, 5, 10 years, but apparently it is on its way. It is nice to have some scenery. Look at this, bridges we can taxi over. Watch the end of my last video and you'll see that I stopped at the end because the bridge is part of a scenery tile that never loaded. It was just a giant chasm in the ground. So I didn't think the airplane was going to make it down that hill and up the other side, so I basically just slewed across it because I didn't know how else to get across it, really. The way the sim was not loading was, to say the least, very frustrating. Alright, no stopping on the bridge. So we get to do an emergency evacuation. The last thing you want to do is do an evacuation onto the bridge and have people go disappearing off the edge of the bridge, off the end of the slides. That would be hilarious and sad. Mostly sad. Takeoff Runway 36 left. Okay, so this guy's taking off 36 left, and we're taxiing for 36 right. So we should see this guy here in a second. Go sailing by. I don't see him. Should be somewhere down here. Unless he was 35 left and just said the runway number wrong, which is always possible. These airports are large and confusing places. Don't see him. But this right here, so this right here you can see is actually not too bad. It's actually detailed as kind of a parking lot here. And you know, the train goes past there, doesn't actually stop there, there's no station or anything, but in the future there will be a station there because it's going to be all developed into another concourse, much like the other 5 that already exist, just to increase the capacity at the airport. Alright, so we're going to take a left here on Hotel. Or are we? No, we're not going to take the left on Hotel, we're going to take the next left, sorry. Left turn on Golf. That'll take us right up the middle lane here. It was very odd that the scenery didn't load, and I've read that though. That I hit up the forums after my last stream, where the scenery just in DFW just did not load, and it seems to be an occasional issue that seems to happen in the sim, where it just decides for whatever reason that it's loaded enough information about an airport, even though it hasn't loaded all the tiles. It's loaded enough, and it just sort of stops, gives up. Before takeoff checklist.
Before takeoff checklist. Flaps.
Flaps 5, green light.
Stabilizer trim.
.1 units.
Before takeoff checklist complete.
Alright. Almost at the runway here.
Checked.
DFW traffic, air source 455, clear, runway 36 left.
Alright, one guy just landed on 36 left, so we're going to have to keep an eye out for him. Let's roll around the corner here in a second. Let me know how the volume is once we get rolling here. Once I get the gear up and the flaps up. Let me know if it's too loud. Last time I did it, it was way too loud. I didn't realize it until like 10 minutes after takeoff, so I was talking and nobody could hear it. Could barely hear anything I was saying over the sound of the engines. And it's like, you want it to be reasonably balanced, where you can hear them and they're turning, they're making noise, but at the same time, I'm not completely drowned out. I'm not fighting with it. DFW traffic, Alaska 303, take position, runway 36 right for takeoff. Runway entry procedure.
Okay. Cabin crew, take your seats.
This guy seems to be a lot
Clear on the
further
approach.
today. Alright, you got some lights there.
The cabin is still not secure.
I know. Call them up and see what's the what there, because it's been a long taxi out. If they're not secure, then there's something going on. They probably forgot to call. And that does happen. They have to call when they're secure, but sometimes they forget to call. Everybody's human, they forget things. We're gonna stipulate that they are secured. Why did I get a caution light there? Let's do it one more time.
Path isolated.
Takeoff.
Thrust set. $80 knots.
Roger.
Checked. V1. Rotate. Oh, a little right.
Gear up.
Gear up.
LNAV.
Checked. 400 feet.
DNAV speed.
Checked.
N1.
Checked.
Flaps 1.
Speed check.
Flaps up.
Flaps 1 set. Speed check. Autopilot on.
Check.
Flaps up set. Gear up.
DFW traffic. Alaska 303 is airport off runway 36 right, left turn out of the Houdat departure. Alright, we're looking for 5,000 feet or above at Haskell. So what we'll do is a little speed intervention and bring it back.
DFW traffic air source will fly 5 right downwind, runway 36 left.
That should make sure we make this Haskell at 5,000
That would be
there.
a left downwind for 36 left.
Alright, so there is 5,000 back to managed speed. And our head's at 34,000 feet. Turn that down a little bit. Let me know if you guys think that was too loud, but I think that was the balance of spout right there. Alright, and we are underway. Another leg of a pilot's life. It is a beautiful day at Dallas. Not a cloud in the sky. Same as when we got here last week, or 2 weeks ago, I guess it was. It was quite a long time ago. it's been a very busy busy summer to say the least. But here we go. We're underway. After takeoff checklist.
After takeoff checklist, engine bleeds, on, packs, auto, landing gear, up and off, flaps, up, no lights. After takeoff checklist complete. Happy to release the cabin crew?
Go for it.
Okay.
Alright, so now we've accelerated to 250. Leaving DFW behind. There it is behind us there. Farewell, DFW. Had a nice long 2-week layover there, but back we go. Alright, and yeah, there we go. Just want to get ourselves about 10,000, hit the end of that sterile flight deck, and then we can start talking about everything else. Alright, that was a pretty uneventful takeoff, pretty successful I think though overall. And here comes 10,000, so
10,000.
if I do the lights before 10,000, then pilot's life stays happier. It doesn't even give you like a tolerance of like 100 feet on it, it's like it has to be 10,000. No later than 10,000, lights must be off. Go for it.
Okay.
Alright, so we're going to turf the people as well. We're accelerating to 290. And yeah, I remember that now. I said we were going to probably bump this cruise in, this cost index up here. Right now it's showing us arriving in Portland 1747. With 7.8 on board. We needed 5.2 for our alternate, so we can definitely bump the cost index here. And it's not something you would necessarily spend a lot of time doing as an airline pilot, but it does depend too. So let's see here. That saved me almost 20 minutes, 1757 to 1738, and burned a little bit more gas, and we could even probably bump it up to 100. But notice that the difference from here to 100 is not going to make that much. 1737, 1738. The cost index from 50 to 100 is not actually going to make a huge difference. That only made about 3 more minutes, and burned about 200, 300 more kilos for about 2 or 3 more minutes. Here we go over, I believe that's Fort Worth Airport, I think. I believe we're just kind of crossing the outskirts, the west side of Fort Worth now. So pretty much as soon as we took off and turned westbound, we were over Fort Worth, and now we're sort of crossing the outskirts of Fort Worth, back across the plains towards our home base of Portland, apparently. That's a lot faster anyways, 333 indicated. Yeah, that's not something you would normally do, is bump up the cost index. Now, as an airline captain, you might. There's times where you'd consider it. The biggest thing is if you're just a little bit behind. If you're just a little bit behind, and maybe that, you know, maybe bumping up that cost index, burning a couple hundred pounds of extra fuel, gets you back on time. Maybe it might be something to consider. The other time you might also consider it is if there's a different time reason why you need to be somewhere sooner rather than later. So if there is a NOTAM that closes a particular runway at a certain time, that makes the airport more awkward to get into, or the ProJ is going to go offline, or the weather's going to sort of come in early, you may want to shave 20 minutes off your flight. Those are the kind of things where, you know, a captain can use their discretion and say, yeah, you know, in the interest of the overall operation, if we get there a little bit sooner, it's going to have a positive impact on the overall operation today. We get back on time. We can beat the weather or beat a runway closure, and you know, even get ahead of a you know, a ground delay program or something like that. These are the kind of things where you might bump up the cost index. If you have a specific slot time you have to meet and you're running behind on that. So those are the kind of things where you might bump up the cost index. But there's also a point where it no longer is worthwhile to bump up the cost index. So if you're so far behind, if you're 5 minutes behind and you can make up that 5 minutes in flight, great. If you're 20 minutes behind, you can make up 20 minutes in flight, great. If you're 3 hours behind, making up 20 minutes in flight is not going to make much of an impact at the end of the day, and the extra fuel starts to become not worth it at that point. So, for the most part, it's emphasized to fly the cost index, fly the plan. System smarter than the individual take into account what cost index to fly. For the Lido system, it will depend, and then airlines will have different policies. Some airlines will have a universal policy where our normal cost index is always this. It's always cost index 25, or it's always cost index 50. We always fly at that. Other airlines will have it fixed per leg, so legs that have frequent service and that the airline wants to have a very attractive product that is always on time, they might always fix it at a high cost index and save the money. So maybe like a New York to Washington or something like that, they might fix it at a high cost index like 100 and just say we're more interested in frequency and reliability on this than we are saving a couple £100 of fuel. We got a lot of high net worth individuals that travel this route, a lot of important customers. We want to make sure we're regularly getting there on time, so we just fix it at 100. And then other ones will vary it based on the situation of the day. So ideally, lower cost indexes do save us money as an airline. The system will look at it and say, based on it will do exactly what SimBrief does. When you go into SimBrief, if you leave it in auto, so if I go into SimBrief here, so if I go into my SimBrief here and I leave it in auto, which is where I have it, right, which is where I had it to begin with, which is why it came up with a 5. What will happen is the scheduled time. So the scheduled en route time, wherever it is here, there it is, scheduled block time 4:15. After they've taken off the taxi out and taxi in time, whatever is left over is the airtime, and it will vary the cost index to exactly arrive on time, to exactly take this amount. So it'll burn the lowest amount of fuel that will get us there exactly on time, assuming we leave on time. Which is what SimBrief does. It has an estimated time. Our airline will have a scheduled time from gate to gate, and it will say, what cost index do I need to make that? That's the cost index we're going to fly if I have no other overriding reasons on this route. So some airlines will fly that very heavily. Some airlines will be more interested in certain routes need to have a certain cost index to get us there quickly or slowly, save money. Is it a lucrative route, or is it a route that has a lot of high worth clientele? Because if it is, then we're going to probably fly faster. We can afford it. The fuel is higher. If we're on a discount route, if we're doing some leisure flights, to Florida or Mexico, those kind of things where it's mostly just vacationers, usually paying bottom dollar, we'll usually pick a low cost index. And if we're late, so be it. They're on vacation. They don't pay very much. We're not as concerned about making them happy. Transition, set standard.
Standard set. Passing flight level 202. Now.
Perfect. One airline I worked for, they did this analysis. So the airline was not an old airline when I started working on it. It was a relatively young airline. Sometimes they still like to think of themselves as a startup when they were definitely no longer a startup. But they were still a relatively young airline. So finally they sort of sat down one day and they did this cost calculation, and they said, where does our revenue come from? Which is important to know, because you got to control costs, but you also got to make sure you know where your revenue comes from and how to generate as much revenue as you can as a business. You want to generate as much revenue as you can. It'll allow you to grow as a business, pay your employees more, and repay your investors as well. So the airline in question did a study, and they came to this determination. And I imagine the ratio was somewhat similar at most airlines. But they said that half of their revenues came from 10% of their passengers, and the other half of their revenues came from 90% of their passengers. So half of their revenue only came from the top 10%. The top 10% of the people paying to ride on the airline made up almost half the revenue of the airline. And the bottom 90% of the passengers made up the other half. So when you're looking at that, and you're starting to look at it as a number, what's going to be easier for you as an airline? Is it easier to please the bottom 90%, or the top 10%? You know, where are you going to get more of a return on investment as a business? If I invest money in the top 10%, that's already causing half my revenue. I don't have to spend all that much because it's not all that many people. But you know, if I invest in making sure that those top 10% are taken care of, and they continue to spend a lot of money at my airline, it's a very small return on investment. You know, they continue to spend money. They probably spend more money on the airline in the long run, as opposed to the bottom 90%, where, you know, that's a lot of people that we have to please. Some of them will probably never be pleased. You know, what is your return on investment for taking care of those people? So it begins to make sense why so many of these airlines treat their elite passengers so well, because they will often represent 50% of the revenue. And I read that I believe it was Emirates said that basically on an A380, as long as they can sell all the first class seats, the flight is paid for. Everything else is just gravy. They're working hard to sell the first class seats, and if they can sell the first class, the flight is already paid for. They don't have to sell a single seat in economy. They don't have to do anything to sell a seat in economy, as long as they've sold the first class. And that's it. The rest of it is just gravy. It's extra revenue that costs them basically nothing to earn, because the flight's already going and it's full of first class people. You understand why the airlines start to treat the people who are willing to pay the business class and first class fares so well. Provide them with decent food, but also with just a much better level of service. And I've seen that. I've seen that firsthand now. You know, the difference. Like, you'll have one flight attendant, probably more than one flight attendant, depending on the size of the aircraft. But you know, you'll have 20 to 30% of you probably have 30% of your cabin crew dedicated to just the first and business class passengers, which only represent maybe 10% of the airplane. But you'll have 3 people serving serving them and serving those, you know, 20 or so people, and you'll have maybe 5 to 6 people serving the remaining 150, 200 people. And it makes sense, you know. You see the fine touches that they give. That you know, you know, they'll call the passengers by name. They'll have the list, and they'll know who's sitting in each seat, and they'll call the passengers by name. You know, they'll go a lot further. I saw the other day somebody had left, somebody in business class had left their headset behind, their headphones behind, and not a cheap set of headphones. Didn't realize it till they started the next leg. And another passenger pointed it out, and then the flight attendant's like, oh, I know exactly what's sitting there, wrote down the name, everything, made sure to emphasize when they got to the next station that this was one of their elite passengers, and they're like, yep, no, we will make sure that this person gets their stuff back. We'll mail it back to them, whatever we have to do, but they're going to get their items back. They take care of the people who sit up front, and with good cause. They are worth a lot of money to these airlines. The people who sit up front usually take the airlines more than once a year. It's multiple times a year, and they're paying multiple times what other people who sit in the back of the airplane are paying to get in the same flight. Complimentary drinks and meals, all relatively insignificant compared to the amount that people are paying for the better seats. Alright, we're getting up there. Anyways, I thought that was very interesting. Alright, how are we doing here? Looks like Kansas City logged off, so much for that. Hopefully we'll have Portland by the time we get there. There's that guy that likes to work Portland Tower. He's generally quite chipper, so hopefully he'll be there by the time we get to Portland. We'll have to work on some escape charts a little bit later on too here. We're definitely going to be going up over the mountains again. A very similar route to the way we took down, maybe a little bit further to the south, I think, which kind of blends better with the Star and Sid that we're on. But similar route anyways. We're still going to be crossing some of that high terrain. We're going to be going right over Boise again, Alamosa, Grand Junction. Yeah, I think we're coming in a little further south. Yeah, a little further south than we were before. We went almost right over Denver last time, so this time we're a little bit further to south, mostly because the Star from Dallas takes us a little more southerly. The inbound was a little bit more north, so. But we'll definitely be passing over some high terrain here, if I can look at this here. PFR should paint the picture nicely there. There's the high terrain. Just as we approach Alamosa, we're going to start getting into this high terrain, past Grand Junction, over TCH's Salt Lake City, isn't it? I don't know what TCH specifically stands for, but it's basically Salt Lake City there. Wasatch? Where do I put the emphasis? Once we get past there, it's not as bad. As we do get into Portland again, we have to kind of come down this valley here. There are some mountains up there. It's not the usual star, actually. Most of the time I've been going into Portland, we take that south star, so actually we're taking this east star today. That's good. Something a little different. Something a little different, because it seems like, you know, and the airline life, it does get a little bit repetitive after a while. It does start to feel repetitive, but yeah, this is going to start to feel a little bit more unique, perhaps. A little bit more different. Yeah. Well, I can see a little bit of cloud out there, just sort of hovering out there over the landscape, but it's really not much out there. Really a pretty nice day out there. It doesn't even look all that hazy. Now, if you go out here, it is incredibly hazy. For those of you that are not based in Canada, the weather in most of Canada the last week or so has been not great. Mostly because because the weather has been great. Ironically, the great weather has turned into some not great weather. Because it has been for most of Canada a drier than usual spring, and a warmer than usual spring, and as a result, like, we're not even into summer yet, and the wildfires in Canada have just absolutely gone insane so far this year. We had out of control wildfires originally in Alberta and BC. That took a long time to get under control. Basically, we had to wait for the weather to turn. And there, hurts to poop one. Says the smoke and smell is horrible in Quebec. Down here in Ontario, it's no better. We are getting, like, you walk outside and you think you're in a provincial park because it smells just so much like campfire right now. Tons and tons of campfire smell. And like I said, like, I've been sneezing a little bit more. My nose is a little bit more irritated than usual. I've been noticing that. I don't know if you've noticed that. I keep on kind of having to kind of just itch my nose a little bit because I've noticed it's a little bit more irritated than usual. I'm sure it's probably worse in Quebec. So it started out in Alberta, BC with some bad wildfires there. I was out in Calgary and it was smoky the one day we were there, and just even taxiing around the airport. You wouldn't smell smoke in one part of the airport, then you go a little bit further along, you get this huge, strong smell of smoke, and it's like it just sits there in pockets. But it was very hazy the time I was in Calgary. It was about a month ago now, I guess. And then Nova Scotia went crazy with wildfires, which is something you don't hear about Nova Scotia ever having any out of control substantial wildfires, because it's the province is just it's right next to the ocean, so you get a lot of moisture. There's a lot of rain, a lot of cloudy days. It's not a terrible thing, but it's just the way the East Coast is. Same thing with St. John's. But yeah, this spring was so dry that there's actually a portion of suburban Halifax had a rather large wildfire. I think it was the biggest wildfire in Nova Scotia history, and burned up a number of homes in the suburbs and outskirts of Halifax. Like, this is a place that you do not normally associate with wildfires. Alberta, BC, yes, okay, you say, yeah, it's unfortunate. There's a lot of wood out there. It gets very dry in the summer. It's unfortunate, but it does happen from time to time. But Nova Scotia is a place where you don't think wildfire. You just don't think wildfire. It's not something. There goes Hoodad. So let's do a quick little update here, because there goes Hoodad. We're still in the climb. So it may not be totally accurate, especially because we've shifted our cost index, which really affects the climb more than anything. But there you go, Hoodad at 1450, and we got 20.9 in the tanks. So let's do this check here. Let's just change this to blue so it's a little bit easier to see. What did I say? 1450, 20.9. So 1450. 20.9 in the tank, so we're 200 pounds over where we should be, so that's fine. We're burning a little bit more gas, or we're a little bit above where we should be. Sorry, we're actually below where we should be. Sorry, we're 200 below where we should be right now. We are burning more gas in the climb at the higher cost index. Now, we did have some extra fuel on this flight plan here. We did have 20 minutes of extra fuel loaded up, which was 1,700 pounds, so 200 pounds of extra burn right now is not the end of the world, but we will keep an eye on it. We'll make sure we don't drop too far below. I don't see a min fuel on board number here, which is a little surprising. Usually you'll have the expected fuel on board and then the minimum fuel on board, and if you drop below the minimum fuel on board, that means you're not going to have enough fuel to get to your destination to be able to hold your alternate. That's when you really have to start to worry. So I don't think we're going to be there quite yet, but let's just add this all up. 1501, 1510, because this is what we would do. Nowadays you can get an app that does this. Most of the time your app will do this. You know, it'll load up your flight plan automatically. It'll generate this as a digital screen, and you can just simply pop that in. So 1542. I'll show you in a second on my tablet if it'll come across. I don't even know where my tablet is. I think it's still in my bag. Worked a lot the last little while, so I haven't even taken it out of my bag. I'm just happy to have days off. The last little while I've worked, not quite non-stop, but very close to it. I've only had like a day off here, a day off there. It's been very, very long. So this week I actually have 3 days off. This is my second of 3 days off, and I'm just enjoying it. You gotta take the days off when you can get them, and do what you can with it. All right, so that's 33 for 34, 17, 19. I really should be paying attention to this. Oops, it's not 1822. It's 1722, 1726. So based on cost index of 5, and that's pretty much the number that was there originally. So that actually works out quite well. I think I passed the math test quite well. We're going to come in a little bit below that because we bumped up our cost index. FMC speed, VNAV path. Alright, so Panhandle is fine, but before we get to Alamosa, I've got to start having some approach, some escape routes drawn on there. Alright, so there is level at 34,000 feet. Have a quick look around the flight deck, make sure that everything is where it should be. Nothing has gone amiss during our climb. Especially switches that you tend to move a lot, make sure that they are all in the right places. Everything looks pretty good right now. That's all on. 22.8. Nobody's showing up on ATC just yet, but that's okay. Yeah, it just blew my mind. Like to have some substantial out of control wildfires in Nova Scotia is just because the other thing too is it's quite an urban. It's not an urban area, but it's a suburban area. It's not a remote area anyways. Generally with out of control wildfires, you mostly associate them with remote areas where there's nobody is aware the fire even exists, and there's not a lot of action taken because you can't even get into these areas. Very much the opposite in Nova Scotia. It's a suburban area. You know, it's kind of on the outskirts of the city, but nevertheless it's not a remote area, and yet this wildfire was just out of control. I think it's almost under control now. I think they have finally gotten some wet weather and it's finally under control, but it just sort of blew my mind when I started reading about it. And at first, you know, you see wildfires and you just think West Coast, you just think the mountains, the remote areas, and you dismiss them. And then I read it the next day and I was like, wait, where's this wildfire? It's in Halifax, not a place you normally associate with wildfires. This summer has just been crazy. And then, of course, now that was a week or two ago. Now we've got some fires that are burning in Quebec, as you mentioned there, and we've got just this constant haze now, and it's been going for days. And let me just pull up the winds here in a second. The first thing I'm going to do before I forget actually here, because I don't think it automatically re-triggers. I think every time we sit down, I have to reset this to have random failures. So we are going to have random failures. And we've only got a handful of you guys watching right now, so I'm not going to put it up very high. 3 events per 10 hours. That'll probably get this event by the time we get there. Limited events. Yes. Limited to 2 events. So if 2 different things happen, that's okay. And we've executed that, so now that's there. Yeah, the one thing that's kind of odd is just the way the winds are blowing. And it's been a little bit unusual. So here is here's Ontario and Quebec, and let's go ahead. Let's all of North America even. Let's pop the winds on there, and you can see the pattern of the winds here. It's a very, very high ridge here that goes up all the way north across Baffin Island before it comes back down here. So we've got winds in, winds especially on the east coast of Canada and the U.S., especially Canada here, that are just completely backwards. Predominantly in the northern hemisphere, especially in the mid-latitudes, the winds blow from west to east, as they are kind of doing here offshore off the U.S. But because of this strong ridge here, and there's a little bit of a low going on right here, the winds here are blowing east to west. Like I said, we flew from Montreal to Toronto. We had a tailwind. We had a 20-knot average tailwind from Toronto to Montreal, and this is of course blowing all the smoke back down. So normally Quebec, you don't get wildfire smoke from Quebec would normally go east, but because of the way the upper winds are blowing the last couple of weeks, it's been a pattern very similar to this for most of the last couple of weeks. You're actually getting the smoke from these wildfires, which are kind of in central Quebec, and they're blowing west over towards Ontario, blowing south towards Ontario, and even east and blanketing some of the northeastern U.S. cities. New York and Toronto apparently had some of the worst air quality in the world over the last 24 hours because of the amount of smoke generated by these forest fires in Quebec and getting blown in that general direction. So the winds have also been a little bit wacky. They've been very light in a lot of places, and often blowing kind of in the wrong direction, just sort of unusual, which is not unusual for the summer. The winds are definitely more common in the summer in North America, but it's a little bit unusual though. It's perhaps a little bit past like where usual would be. Anyways, what else can we talk about, guys? We could talk about the Fenix too, because there was a great blog post that Fenix did like 2 weeks ago now, but I haven't streamed for like 2 weeks. They did an absolutely enormous blog post. So I guess it was their anniversary, first of all, of the Fenix back at towards the end of May there, so about 3 weeks ago. So they did a absolutely huge blog post here, and I can just sort of pop it up here just to show you guys how long this blog post was here. Cute little picture there for their 1 year anniversary, but it just kept on going and going and going. So if you're interested in the Fenix at all and you like the Fenix, there's lots of information here. Basically, the biggest thing is they kind of outline the progress that has been made on version 2 of the Fenix. It's basically almost a complete and total rewrite. So they released the product, they've released a few kind of updates and bug fixes, but it has not been something that they've been putting a lot of extensive work into updating because of the need to completely rewrite the sim. So basically what happened to Fenix is early on in their development process, they had to make a choice. The aircraft was not the aircraft. The way Microsoft Flight Simulator was written, the aircraft could not really be released. So they ran into the problem that a lot of developers ran into initially, which was that the SDK was so limited. The original MSFS SDK was so limited that they had a hard time doing a lot of what they wanted to do. So when they started out, they basically had two choices. They could either try to work within the limits of the SDK, hope that it was updated enough and tweaked enough and improved enough that they could publish the aircraft, or what they could do is they could transfer most of the processes for the aircraft outside the sim. So this has been a technique that a number of developers have used in the past in the P3D world, where there's a separate program running in parallel with the sim that handles a lot of the processes for your particular aircraft. Majestic was an example of this in the P3D era and the FSX era. They had a completely separate flight model, so they did not use the internal flight model in P3D whatsoever. They had a completely separate flight model that was running outside the sim. I can put my hands on the screen here. So they were, you know, when they was communicating back and forth with the sim, basically what the sim was the world for the airplane to fly through and do the graphics and whatnot. But in terms of how the aircraft would react, the aerodynamics, the engines and everything like that, it was completely a separate program running outside the sim, because the way the sim was programmed and the constraints that were in the sim couldn't realistically simulate the Dash 8. So that was the option that Fenix had, and that was the option that Fenix took. Was they basically said, we're going to move a lot of our heavy lifting outside the sim and let the sim just be, you know, let the sim do its thing and draw these beautiful graphics that it does, and handle lighting and graphics and stuff like that. But in terms of things like rendering screens and handling engine functions and stuff like that, we're going to run it outside the sim in our own separate program that runs simultaneously with our aircraft and have it talk back and forth. But that way, we're not constrained by the limitations and the way the sim itself is set up. So that was the original choice that Fenix made. In the long run, it turned out to perhaps not be the right choice. At the time, it was the one that probably looked like it was going to have the most chance of success, because Asobo was very vague about when they were going to drop certain SDK updates, when they were going to support certain things in the SDK. So, you know, Fenix couldn't operate on that. So some developers sort of took the wait-and-see approach and said, we'll hope that Microsoft is able to do what we need to do. Fenix basically said, we don't have a lot of faith in them. We don't have a lot of faith in Asobo that they're going to get stuff out there in a timely fashion, that we can release this aircraft in a timely fashion. So they took the external model and ran with that. And it worked well for them in the beginning. They managed to get their product to market reasonably quickly, and it's a fantastic product. I don't think anyone will argue that. It looks really good. It runs generally pretty good, but that external process uses up quite a bit of extra processor power in tandem with MSFS. It often will max out your CPU or your GPU while both processes are running and trying to do a lot of intense things. So what happened in the interim after it wasn't even, I think it would happen actually before Fenix actually released, but when they were very close to the end of the development process, Asobo updated the SDK in a big way that actually would have made it very possible for them to operate, for them to develop the aircraft within the SDK limitations, instead of having to have this whole separate external program that they had. The trouble was, this happened so close to the end of the development process that if they were going to go and take advantage of it, they would have had to do almost a complete rewrite of the aircraft. So they decided to launch anyways with what they had, and I think most people are generally happy with it. Yes, there are performance issues. It doesn't run, if you don't have like a high-end rig, it doesn't run particularly well, but it runs okay. It runs okay. It looks really good. It does, and the fidelity of the model, how much stuff happens behind the scenes in the model, is fantastic. The level of detail of the systems, of the FMGCs and all that, is really quite phenomenal. However, now that once it was released, they did another reevaluation, and Fenix basically came to the conclusion that given the state of the SDK, they will probably now make performance gains if they actually bring most of the processing back into the simulator, where the simulator is managing all the processing power. The trouble with the way it runs right now is MSFS is very good at maxing out your particular system. It's very good at kind of evaluating what your resources your system has available and using them to just about the max, leaving a tiny bit of overhead, a little bit of buffer, but most using your resources to like 90% in your computer. The trouble is, if you have then the parallel program that Fenix has that needs about 10 to 15% of your resources, that adds up to more than 100%. Now you start to get slowdowns. So now Fenix is going to reverse course and go all into the SDK, and almost everything is going to be running within the sim, so the sim can better manage the processor power. And what they've said in this blog post is that doing so has made a huge improvement on the overall performance, where before they were getting better performance having their external system and not relying on the simulator. The SDK and the support within the simulator has grown to such a degree that now they can take advantage of that, and they don't need to have the separate software running side by side. They can take advantage of the sim itself, let it do most of the management, and therefore probably not bog down your computer as much. So they said now you're actually getting more performance gains. In the beginning, when the way the sim was written, they got performance gains by having the external program running. Now they said the balance is tilted the other way, and they get more performance gains by operating more within the simulator. So that's what they've been doing for most of the last year, is rewriting the 320 altogether from scratch, redoing the external model so that it better works within the sim, with the lighting in the sim, more performance tweaks on the external model, the systems, everything. So they're getting more going on inside of it. Simultaneously with that, they have been also developing the IAE engines. So the original Fenix released just with the CFM56s. Now they're getting to the IAE engines as well, which is a whole different set of data, a whole different set of engine performance and behavior, very different in a lot of ways from the CFMs. So that's another thing that sort of happened in tandem with this other development, is they have they've also developed the IE. So when version 2 releases, not only are you going to get a performance boost, but you'll now have the option, depending on which airline you're flying for, which aircraft you're flying, you'll be able to operate the IAE or the CFM engines. So it's not quite done yet, but it's getting very close to the end. That was kind of the gist of what they had there. Also tweaks to the some of the screens, where things were good, but they weren't quite really perfectly proportioned. And what I find, actually, I think a part of it, I think too, is that the screens they have here on the left, they, I think, slightly more closely resemble the CRT versions of the Airbus, whereas since I think 2003, all the new Airbuses came equipped with the LCD screens, which are much more crisp, and this is what they're kind of going for in here. With the LCD screens, when Airbus upgraded the LCD screens, in a lot of cases, the display changed slightly. Not a whole lot, not a substantial amount. There's same basic information, the same basic spots, but things were tweaked a little bit. You're able to make things a little bit more crisper on the LCD than with the CRT. The CRT was fuzzy. It's just the nature of the CRT screen. It's a glowing screen. It's not liquid crystals that are turning on and off. It's just a glowing cathode ray tube. With electrons being shot from the far end. Things are not as things are fuzzier on that kind of a screen. So I think that the original PFD that they had on here was more representative of those CRT screens. That being said, it was trying to do the LCD screen with the CRT type format. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a difference here. Some of the numbers have got a little smaller, a little more crisp. To more closely resemble the real world. Same thing with the ECAM here. Things are just a little bit different. The ratios of things a little bit smaller, representing a little bit of a high resolution screen. This is more of a lower resolution. But I think that goes more to the original screens that they had, the CRT type screens that they had in the Airbus. So there have been some other things about this that they've been dealing with, but version 2 is approaching completion. Hopefully it'll come out soon, and hopefully it'll be enough of a performance bump that I can consider streaming with the Fenix version, with version 2 of the Fenix. I'm looking forward to that idea, because I think that's a beautiful airplane. The level of depth in that aircraft, it's amazing. Almost everything without fault is modeled in the FGC. Even like the equal time distance, the equitime points calculations are modeled in there. Obviously the depth of the ACAR system that most of you guys have used, but there's stuff in there that you just skip right by. You don't even use it. Most people don't even use it, but it's there. It's all there to be used. There goes panhandles. So let's do so that's 1510 19.0. Let's just check this out. Panhandle. Alright, 1510 19.0, so we're still 200 pounds short on the fuel, but we had 1,700 extra, so that's fine. We're still 1,500 above the minimums by that calculation, and we're right on time at Panhandle, so carry on. Carrying on. Any ATC online yet? No? Nobody? No, didn't think so. Well, it's always worth it. Where are we here? Where am I here? We took off from there. Oh, you know what? There is actually ATC online. Albuquerque came online. I didn't even notice. 32.8. Ha! We do have ATC en route here. Let's get them up here. They haven't even pinged me yet. They must have just logged on, because I haven't even gotten a ping yet. Albuquerque, good morning. Alaska 303, flight level 340. How long has he been online here for? Because
Alaska 303, Albuquerque Center, good morning. Squawk 0534.
0534 coming up, Alaska 303. 0534. He's been online for 12 minutes, so I'm surprised he didn't ping me yet. I'm kind of cutting through a corner of his airspace. I'm not in and out of any of his airports. I just got to go through a corner, so in the grand scheme of things, probably a low priority to get me
Alaska
pinged.
303, radar contact 10 miles northwest of the Panhandle VOR. Good morning.
All right, location checks. Good morning. Yeah, just cutting through like a corner of his airspace, but we'll be here for a good 20 minutes or so. So yeah, good, nice to have some ATC. Hopefully, we'll hear some other airplanes talking out there. You know, getting ATISes up and running. Albuquerque, El Paso, Phoenix, Tucson, getting all those ATISes up and running and everything takes a little while. Honestly, it does. As you guys have seen on my controller streams, if I start the stream at the exact same time that I start the log on as a controller, you see it usually takes 10 to 15 minutes to really get a total handle of what's going on. Get in there, read the NOTAMs, set up appropriate ATISes at various airports, contact all the people who are airborne, get a feel for what they're doing. It usually takes 10 to 15 minutes to get through all these steps. So it's not something that, you know, especially if the person is not near anybody else, not causing any kind of conflict, and is not inbound or outbound from any of your airports within your control area. There's no urgency to get a hold of this person. Good to get a hold of them eventually when you can, but no urgency anyways. All right. And how are we doing here? So we got 60. So we got it's a little over 2 hours to go till we get on the ground there. 17:39, about 2 hours and 25 minutes. 2 hours and 25 minutes. We're gonna have to start doing some escape charts as we approach Alamosa here. Because we'll be out over the mountains into some high terrain before we get to Alamosa. So I'm gonna see if I can find my company tablet. What did I do with it here? Standby 1. There we go. And I forgot to unmute that. So what I was saying was this was the... I forgot that I had muted my mic for a second there. This is the app that we use, and you can see there's various waypoints. So that's like the nav log of a flight. So you put in the time, you put in the fuel over each point, and it recalculates and says, okay, we expect you to be over the next point at this time, the next fuel check, and it kind of shows you just how you're doing. So instead of doing it on paper, you just simply are doing it in an app. It makes it very easy because you can also even just tap over this point at this time, and you don't even have to look at the actual time. You just literally put "we're passing over it now." Just tap the button, insert current time, and it figures it out and shows you your deviation from the plan, whether you're ahead or behind, whether you're up on fuel or down on fuel. Yeah, so that being said though, on longer flights, the problem with doing this is that
254 radar contact.
At our company, the iPads, the EFBs are all issued to individual pilots. Now, the real problem happens when you have an augmented crew. When you have a crew that has...
Good morning. Southwest 3057 on here at Phoenix. We got information golf.
That's fine. Yeah, the trouble is when you have an augmented crew and people are going and having rest periods, how do you fill out a nav log that's on somebody else's iPad? If you don't know the code to unlock their iPad, they walk away and it times out. Great, now you don't have an official way of keeping track, and we are legally obligated to still keep track of these things. We are legally obligated to show that we have done time and fuel checks periodically throughout the flight. How do you do that, you know, and how do you make it conform if you've got different people with different EFBs? So what will often happen for the long-haul flights is they will actually print out a nav log still. They'll actually, when they're, before they depart, they'll actually, in the flight planning room, they'll print out the first couple pages of the flight plan, including the flight log, and they'll actually keep track of it on paper. Why? Because paper is easy to give to somebody else. In this digital world, sometimes actually transferring a document to somebody else can actually be a bit of a pain in the butt. I mean, you know, Apple especially. It's great when it works, but if it doesn't work, there's no troubleshooting. You just simply turn it on and off again and mash the buttons a bunch of times and hope that something different happens each time. There's no troubleshooting when there's an Apple product. So, yeah, the standardization is great, but again, it's one of those things. You know, Apple, it just works until it doesn't, and then you have no way of fixing it if it doesn't work. So sometimes there's something to be said for a good old-fashioned sheet of paper where you write everything down and you can just pass it to the next guy and they can write something down on it. So that's what often happens on the long-haul flights, is they still use paper for the nav logs for that reason, because it's reliable, it's easy to transfer from one person to another, you don't have security issues with the paper, it's easy. You don't necessarily need to print out the 35 pages of NOTAMs.
Albuquerque Center citation 777.
Anyways, as I was saying, because we're going to cross the mountains, we're going to need an escape chart here. So let's just have a little look-see here at my escape charts. And let's see if I can find Alamosa on here. So that's going to be kind of my anchor point.
Citation 777
Mesa, Durango.
I'm on the ground at Amarillo.
There it is, Alamosa. Found it. Alright, so we need some escape charts. So if we have something happens.
Citation 7 Charlie X-ray, Roger. Try to resend your flight plan. I don't have anything on you.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to go into the fix page to draw this on our map. So if we do have an issue with the engines or with pressurization, we know where to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go in here, bloke. And then we're going to do the 061 radial. And at the end of the day, I put a limit on it, but really it leads us straight out of the mountain there. And then from Alamosa,
And Center citation 7 Charlie X-ray question.
and what we could do is,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, is there any way to save a flight plan in the VATSIM flight planner so you don't have to go through everything again?
I don't know about the flight planner. I know you can do it on B-Pilot.
alright, so there's Lewis. Lewis
Okay, let me check this out.
146 takes you to Alamosa, and then Alamosa outbound. And then as we go to the other side of the mountains here, there's some cases where it's just literally lat longs. I wonder if I can put a lat long in here. And then let's see, we go end up at junction there, so let's do this. Can I do LL01 as a custom waypoint? Not a database, no. Nav data. I don't know how to put a customized waypoint in here, so we'll just have to skip the ones that need a customized waypoint. Let's see here. So
Citation 232 Charlie Foxtrot, Albuquerque Center, cleared to the Van Nuys Airport. Roadrunner 3 departure Zuni transition
you can
and
do
is filed.
HBU.
Climb via the SID, expect flight level
Blue Visa.
430, 10 minutes after departure.
261
Departure
radial out from
complete,
that.
walk 1520.
And the Montrose radial 297 to Grand Junction.
I don't have to say the departure, but
So
it looks like the round 3, but it's not.
TJ. And we can do that one outbound 297, and that goes as far as Grand Junction. And then that's the first part of our route taken care of. What's our fix after Grand Junction? Then we go up to
232
TCH.
Charlie Foxtrot, your readback is correct. You can expect runway 8 for departure.
So there will be a few more we're going to have to do in here as we kind of head in that direction.
And that departure is the Road Runner.
I'll do MTU 050 and 262. All right, do this one.
Might be an arrival into
So we're
Vegas.
just getting some escape routes on here. If anything happens untowards while we're cruising above the mountains here, we'll know the safest routes that we can get out of the area we're in. 250 and 262. I do like the Airbus way. So in the Airbus way, we just use the secondary flight plan. That is fantastic as a way of just drawing it on there. You draw a secondary flight plan, and that's just got all of your ways on here. So starting at the Bloke intersection, we can go northeast bound. Otherwise, anywhere as we go eastbound here, we can turn towards Lewis, go from Lewis back to Alamosa, and then take the 173 radial outbound from that. Or
Center citation 7
head
Charlie
towards
X-ray,
Blue Visa,
it should be in
up
your
to
name.
Montrose, and straight ahead to Junction. Those are our escape routes along our particular track here. So depends on the aircraft you're in, but these ones have been evaluated for
Airport.
our company aircraft, and any company aircraft at any given weight should be able to. You may end up into the grid off-road altitude limits here. So if I can draw these on here, the Moras. So these Moras here, as we come across here, 16.6, 15.5, 16.1, all these Moras here. You know, if you were to have like a worst case scenario, something happened as you're right about here. You know, the terrain
Charlie X-ray is clear to Phoenix.
in this area here is up to 15,500 to clear it. Even if you were at a heavy weight that you couldn't maintain 15,500, you're not going to instantly go from 35,000 down to 50,500. You're going to have some time. So the way they're designed is that if you have an engine failure right here, at this moment here, as long as you start an immediate turn as you start descending towards the nearest route. So here's that route that I drew, Lewis down to Alamosa. As long as you start an immediate right turn towards that route and intercept that route, at the rate you're going to descend, you won't actually hit any terrain. As long as you start turning towards one of these routes immediately, that's the key. If I switch back to VFR, let's figure out where the highest terrain is in this spot here. It looks like the highest terrain is maybe up here or up here. But again, as long as you start an immediate turn towards these areas, the terrain's dropped enough that you can make a turn towards those escape routes. And as long as you're not falling out of the sky, you can, you know, as long as you're descending on single engine, you're only descending at a couple hundred feet per minute. You've got lots of time to get back here. We did the calculations the other day, and it was like it'll take you like 200, 300 miles for you to get from cruise altitude down to 15,000 feet. Lots of time to actually get out of the mountains, as long as you go and start turning immediately and start take action immediately. If you just keep on sailing up straight ahead without thinking, okay, eventually you're going to run out of terrain. But as long as you turn towards the nearest yeah, as long as you turn towards the nearest ones, the nearest route, you'll be able to make it to that route and get out of the mountains without having to worry about not clearing terrain. Now again, in the case of rapid depressurization, things are a little different. With rapid depressurization, usually you're trying to descend as quickly as possible. With an engine failure, you're going to descend as slowly as possible. Pressurization is usually not an issue, even on a single engine in most aircraft. So you won't be able to maintain 30,000, but what you will do is you'll bleed the speed back until you get to the optimal descent speed, the engine out descent speed, which will probably be somewhere back towards the lower end of your window here. So it'll take us, you know, 2 or 3 minutes just to decelerate to 240 knots, and then we just start slowly descending at 240 knots and maintain that speed, and we just maintain altitude as best we can. We only descend at a few hundred feet per minute, so it'll take you a long time to get down. You're not going to be instantly down there in the mountains. Emergency descent's the opposite. If you have a pressurization issue, you want to get down to a breathable altitude as quickly as possible. That being said, you have 2 engines running, so you can descend as close to that as possible, and then make your way out of the mountains. So again, coming across here, 15,500, we can start an immediate descent down to 15,500, knowing 15,500 is a safe altitude. As we turn towards these escape routes, and then we can start descending lower once we know that we're safely on these escape routes. The oxygen is designed to take you through an emergency descent down to 10,000 feet and still fly on oxygen for like 2 hours, for the pilots anyways. As long as the key is that you have to leave it in the normal position, not the 100%. So normal is just where the amount of oxygen that's coming out of the mask is mixed with the ambient oxygen, and it just increases it till there's enough oxygen. So it supplements the oxygen that's already in the air to give you enough oxygen to survive. 100% oxygen is more for a smoke emergency where you need, where there's fumes in the airplane and you need all the oxygen coming out of the mask, so you can't accept anything from the outside. In that case, of course, you're going to go through the oxygen a lot faster. Those kind of emergencies are usually deferring and landing very quickly anyways. But as long as you're in normal mode, you'll get lots and lots of time out of these oxygen. Now, the passengers run out of oxygen after about 15 minutes, but if you're down at 15,500, it's not an unsurvivable climate. Yes, it's not great. You may start to get euphoric, you may start to, some people may start to lose consciousness, but you're not going to immediately die. And passengers will survive long enough. It may not be ideal, but they will survive long enough to get to lower terrain. As long as the flight crew is protected and is able to get you to that higher terrain. Did that just flash at me, or was that just me? Anyways, we've got our escape routes kind of programmed in. They're really not that far, but this stretch right here is some of the highest terrain in North America. So if we do have anything happen over there, we turn towards this route from Lewis back to Alamos and fly back down here, and then we can either get out of Albuquerque or turn around back around the mountains and go up to Pueblo or Denver. There we go. Fuel. And I'm just going to assume that is because, yeah, we've been flying long enough that the center tank is just about empty now. So that's the left tank ran dry, the left pump ran dry, the right pump will run dry shortly as well. What else can we talk about this morning? So we've done our escape charts. We've done our escape charts. We've talked about our potential scenarios across the mountains. We've got another hour, 2 hours now to go still. What else? Hasn't been a whole lot of announcements really lately in the sim world too much. Just trying to think now. Nothing terribly riveting that I saw. That Fenix announcement was one of the more interesting ones I've seen in the last little while.
November 8-1 Sierra Mike GA ramp.
The one thing that I saw that kind of bugged me a little bit, and it just bugs me perpetually. Aerosoft made an announcement, kind of buried in the middle of a post, but they made an announcement that their next project, once they release the A330, is going to be the A330 Neo. So with the new engine option, they're going to release another version of the A330.
Longitude 810 Mike Albuquerque Center.
The community response sometimes just blows my mind.
3 departure, Zuni transition.
The most common response to this was, you guys should work on a different airplane. Why don't you do the A340? Why aren't you working on the A340?
With me, squawk 6047.
How about a little gratitude? You know, okay, and these guys are not doing anything for free. And I'm not trying to say that they're doing, that they're developing these aircraft, you know, altruistically. Like there's no... They don't have a motivation. Yes, okay, they're going to get paid to develop these aircraft. But then you get people who get all up in a fit, throw a fit because, oh, it's not the airplane that I wanted that you're going to develop next. Well, and I have to say, like Mathis from Aerosoft, he had the best response. If you don't like our plan, there are plenty of other great airplanes to choose from available for Microsoft Flight Simulator. End of discussion. You can go ahead and politely say, hey, have you thought about this? Would you consider this? But it was the way certain people reacted. Some people just immediately like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be doing this. As if they are the ones that dictate everything that happens at a company. Like, you know, as long as these developers, they are certainly making money along the way, but they are in this job also because they're passionate about it. This is not a job where they're going to make millions. This is a job where they do what they do because they're mostly because they're passionate, because they like simming, they like keeping people. They like, you know, helping people along, simulate the aircraft that they want to simulate.
303 departing my airspace to the north. Denver is offline. Radar service terminated. Frequency change approved. See you later.
Alaska 303 back off to Unicom. Thank you very much for the service. Have a great day. All right. Well, we had ATC for a little bit there. I didn't really listen to much he said because I was too busy yakking on my own. But yeah, it was just the attitude that people had, like, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's just a repeat of what you're already doing. Do something else. And it wasn't even like a polite request. It was you know, demanding. And I hardly agree with Matt. It's like, it makes you not want to support this community. You know, when people just react like that, like, oh, you should not do that airplane. You must do this airplane. I want you to do my favorite airplane. They'll announce what they can announce. They'll you know, and I'm sure Airsoft would love to release hundreds of airplanes every year, but it takes a lot of time and effort, and they're going to do a good job on each one. You know, it's going to take time. How about say thank you? I like what you're thinking about. Have you considered doing this next? Maybe, possibly, perhaps, please. Pretty please with a cherry on top. Instead of, oh, you shouldn't do that. You got to do this next. That's the one you really should be doing. Don't waste your time on this one. Just that attitude, that the entitlement that people have in this day and age to all sorts of things just blows me away. Sometimes just be grateful for what you get. Say thank you. And if you really want to influence them, I try to tell my kids this, and I think my kids don't believe me either sometimes. But you get so much more, you get so many more, you catch more flies with honey than vinegar, I guess, or whatever it is. You're much more likely to get a positive response and potentially influence somebody when you're nice to them than if you're just being crabby towards them. I try to tell my kids this. I think they don't believe me, but you're much more likely to get a positive response when you're nice to people. You know, it's funny, like I see all these travel hacks. Oh, you know, if you bring the flight attendants a bag of candy, you're going to get upgraded to J-Class for sure. Not a guarantee by any means. But at the same time, like, you know, you do something nice for somebody, they will remember. They will remember sometime. In most cases, they will remember, and they will think about it. They'll definitely, if something comes up where they can make a decision that is within their discretion, and usually these kind of decisions about who gets upgraded is usually not within the flight attendant's discretion. It depends on where it happens in the sequence, but at most airlines, the upgrade priority is going to be, well, who paid the most who paid the most for their ticket. Whoever sitting in the economy class paid the most for their ticket, they're going to be the first people to come up and get asked, hey, would you like to go sit up front? Now, there will be exceptions to that, and this is where some discretion can come in, and flight attendants may be able to use some of this discretion to their advantage. You know, if you have you know, a big family, like there's 2 empty seats up front, and I know you've got a family of 4, I'm probably not going to come to you. I'll go to the next people on the list because you probably don't want to get your family split up. Maybe you do. I don't know, but I probably would move on. I wouldn't even make it something you'd have to think about, because oftentimes when it happens, it has to happen quick, just for weight and balance purposes before we get the door closed. But certainly, yeah, like just being nice to people in this world, you're definitely more likely to get some help, to get what you want, being nice to people, than just demanding and acting entitled. And people who act entitled, often it backfires on them. My aircraft, or my phone is kind of, you know, some of the news stories it throws up now. I started tapping on some more and more of these news stories where karma comes up and just bites people in the rear end, you know, and they're repetitive, but they're just vindication sometimes is nice. You know, the employer who says, oh, you know, no overtime, I cannot pay you anybody for overtime, so no overtime. And then, okay, I guess I won't answer my phone on the weekend. On a Monday morning, the guy shows up at work, and his boss is like, oh, why didn't you open your phone? Why didn't you answer your phone all weekend? Because you don't pay me to answer my phone on the weekend. You said I only get paid from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, so that's the time I answer my phone. Period. you want me to answer my phone outside that? You know, you gotta pay me for that. You know, you said I can't claim the money outside of my normal work week, so I didn't answer my phone outside my normal work week. I decided not to do work outside my normal work week. You know, and then you know, the guy gets all in a huff and then realizes that he was 100% wrong. Or, you see all this time, or people who are people who buy like people who select two seats. They select the window seat and the aisle seat, leave the middle seat empty, hoping nobody's going to pick it, and that they'll then by accident get a whole row to themselves, or maybe not so much by accident, but then they will because nobody wants the middle seat, and then they get all mad when someone shows up in the middle seat. Well, this was what you booked. You know, if you want to sit together, pay the extra fee to sit properly, to seat yourselves next to each other. But when you're trying to game the system, don't be surprised when the system you know, blows up in your when your game blows up in your face. I hate these people that try to game, always trying to game the system, always trying to screw over other people. And you know, happened to my wife at work, where they recently changed shifts at work, and the three people who volunteered to do the scheduling have now decided that they're going to make all the shifts perfectly fit for them, and everybody else is going to get completely the shaft. So that they have and the only people that they work with are the people who are above them on the seniority list, because it's all seniority based. So people can pick from the list of available shifts based on seniority. And so they specifically go to the people above them and say, hey, what would you like on a shift? And then they make them exactly the shift that they would like, so that they don't pick one of their shifts. They pick the shift they like, and then everyone else below them gets garbage, nothing. And it's like, you know, just because you're appointed to this committee doesn't mean that, you know, you should be screwing over all of your coworkers just to make your own lives better. You know, the whole point of having a scheduling committee that's created by the union is to try and create a schedule that all the union members can benefit somewhat from. You know, and okay, not everyone's going to have a great schedule, but these people just went out of their way to make sure that they got exactly the perfect, ideal schedule, and everyone else behind them gets zero, gets nothing. And yeah, I hope it blows up in their face at some point too. I hope that they get kicked off the scheduling committee, and the next time that comes around, they get absolutely nothing that works for them. Just that vindication sometimes when people who are so entitled get what's coming to them. Really, truly what's coming to them. It's nice to see. Because people in this world, they just think that they deserve everything just because they exist. Anywho. What else can we talk about? Oh yeah, that was the one thing I wanted to talk about too. For those of you that didn't see it in my last stream, but I have to say this went really well. MiniFCU. For those of you guys that did not see it in my last stream, I had it up in I talked about it a little bit briefly in my last stream, but MiniFCU here. It is it's a little hardware, little piece of hardware for you simmers out there, basically, and the guidance panel off an Airbus flight deck. It is where is it? Here it is. It's a standalone unit. It's about 70% of the size of the real thing. So here it is. These guys, the guys who developed this are real Airbus captains, and so here they brought the sample product with them, and threw it up on the dash of threw it up in the glare shield of their Airbus, so you can compare the two, and you can see it's a little bit smaller. You know, it's a little tiny bit smaller, but everything's laid out in the same proportions. The knobs all work. They have the exact number of clicks that are required by the Airbus manual. You know, everything, and they did a Kickstarter, and it was very affordable during the Kickstarter here. Now, of course, this is a little bit expired because it was $99 was the. It's funny, there's not a line there, but $99 was the deal. So they were going to retail this for $249 US, but for the Kickstarters, for the first 1,000 people, it was a $99. $99 you'll get this plus shipping. It's got to ship from Hong Kong, so North America you're looking at a $30 or $40 shipping charge, but still less than $150. You're getting, what looks like a very realistic, fun piece of hardware. I ended up biting the bullet. I wasn't sure if I was going to bite the bullet. I bit the bullet on it. I said I will do this. This looks like fun. I think we just passed over Alamos. We just passed Alamos at 1540 by 16.2. 1540 by 16.2. Let's see here. So Alamosa, there it is. Okay, if anything, we're getting ahead now. Cool. 1540, 16.2. So we're down 300 on the fuel. So that is not an unexpected trend. Again, we had 1,700 extra to start with. So it's not an unexpected trend. Keep an eye on it, but it's okay right now, and we are a little bit ahead of schedule. So we're going to get there a little bit faster. We're burning a little bit more gas to get there. Exactly what we expected when we ran it up to cost index 100. Yeah, so back to what I was talking about here. So yeah, MiniFCU. So I backed it. Look at this. Their goal was $17,000 Canadian. They raked in $593,000 Canadian. They sold out the first 1,000 in like a couple of minutes. I was on there at like 2 or 3 minutes after the Kickstarter started, and I could not get the $99 deal. I ended up having to get I think 129. So let's see here. What did they get here? They had, they had a couple of deals. They had like 99, 129, 159. Yeah, all gone. 99, all gone. 129. So I couldn't even get the 99. By the time I clicked it, it was already all gone. The 129's also all gone. But like, really good deals here. But these guys sold 1,000 of these. I think there were 500 at this, 250 at this price. 250 at this price. The 159 price, 1,700 people picked it up out of 1,745. Like they basically, their first production run is going to be 5,000 units. They have sold almost the whole 5,000. They have sold. It looks like they've probably sold about 4,500 out of the 5,000 units for this thing. For the price, like that's the thing. For that price, like you can't really go wrong. And somebody actually pointed this out. I think it was on last stream, and it might have been Hayden UK. You point out you could buy it now on the Kickstarter, and if it really doesn't work for you, you can go and resell it. You'll probably be able to make a profit just off the resale. Go resell it on eBay or something as new or almost new, and you'll probably still make a profit off of it. Like it's quite something. So anyway, so yeah, I decided to bite the bullet and go with that one myself. I thought this seems like a really good deal, and yeah, what can I say? At the end of the day, they sold me for that price. The shipping is going to be a little bit more, but 3,000. Oh yeah, there you go. This is total right there. 3,163 backers. So I think the initial production run is supposed to be 5,000. They've already sold 3,100 of them. I have no doubt that this project is going to go. That this project is definitely going to go. These guys are going to be able to use this money to fund the production run. And I'm sure over time they'll be able to sell the remaining. They could probably do the full production run of 5,000, and I'm sure they'll sell the remaining 1,800. They could probably put them in stores, sell them to distributors, put them in stores, and sell them out. Because it looks like a good product. The only problem with this product that I saw, and it sort of made me hesitate a little bit. It made me hesitate a little bit when I was playing with this product. When I was looking at this product, is that they have said themselves that as of yet the compatibility with the Fenix is unknown. So there's a bunch of add-ons. They said 100% will be supported during the initial shipment. The TOLUS Flight Factor, the X-Plane, the A330 from X-Plane, the default A320 and MSFS, the fly-by-wire A3NX, the Headwind A330. And the Jar Design A320. All those will be initially supported. The one that they didn't manage to get on board with 100% was Fenix. Fenix doesn't really have an external API for custom hardware. And so people were constantly like hassling Fenix too, which was kind of funny. And again, entitlement people. You take what you can get and say thank you for it. People were all over the Fenix forums. Oh, can you support this? Can you support this? Can you support this? And people, and I get people want to have an answer before they committed money to buying this hardware. They want to know that it's going to be supported in their favorite aircraft before they get there. But the attitude some people took, Fenix very much took a passive. We will look at it, but since we don't have it in our hands. We can't speak to whether or not we can support it 100%. We don't know we don't have any specs on it, any details on it. MiniFCU did say they reached out to Fenix and they never got a what's the word? A definite response, anyways, from them. That they did reach out to them. They never really got a response to see if it was going to be supported. Again, it depends on a number of things, and it's not to say that it won't be supported. Fenix now is going to be rewritten to kind of operate mostly through the MSFS interface. So as long as they can have button triggers that work within the MSFS interface, which might be difficult because Airbus has kind of got a very unique set of buttons. But that being said, there is in the sim there is a default A320 that has buttons in there, and I honestly haven't flown them forever, but I'm assuming that you can push and pull them properly the way the airplane should be done. So as long as those variables can be recognized as bindable key presses within the sim, then it should be theoretically supportable by the Fenix. As long as you can bind the appropriate key presses to the appropriate buttons, it should work. It hasn't been guaranteed. And for me, like, Fenix is my go-to. That's the one I want to use it with. So I am going to be... I'm going to be a little bit hesitant. I put the money in because I think it's a fantastic deal, and you'll never probably find a deal like that again. But yeah, I'm a little bit hesitant, a little bit reticent. I hope that it works with the Fenix because that's the airplane that I want to get it into. I want to get it into the Fenix. I want to use it with the Fenix and fly with that realistic guidance panel because it's so unique. And for me, like, flying is a tactile experience. Clicking everything with the mouse and moving the mouse around the screen and clicking this, that, and the next thing, it's not really terribly realistic at the end of the day. In the real airplane, you go clink, clink, you go, you twist the knobs. I'm doing it off here where my control panel should be, but you know what I mean. Like, you twist the knobs, you push it, you pull it, you press a button, you tap a button, that sort of thing. It's not, you know, moving the hand around with the mouse and going click, 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 click. That's not how you really interact with an airplane. But obviously, there's limitations to the sim. We have to have this, but so having that, like, one of the more, and the guidance panel is one of the things you do tend to interact with more often. That and the CDU, which is why, again, this is one of those things that I can't believe Fenix didn't do, is they didn't put a CDU that is supportable on a tablet, and I hope that will change. I hope they'll build an API that changes that in the future. I would love to have an AviaWorks. I would shell out the money just like that. If they had, if AviaWorks released a license to put their product in the Fenix A320 like that, I'd be all over it, because tapping on the tablet, that is pretty realistic. You know, it's obviously it's not actually a button that you press and goes clink clink, but everything's in the right place. You use the right finger motions. I would definitely be all over that. I'd like to set things up. The only reason why on stream you see me clicking on the screen is because you guys can't see what I'm doing with the tablet. But like when I'm flying, you know, by myself for personal entertainment, I will often have my tablet literally sitting right here. It'll be right over here, right next to my mouse, basically kind of more or less in the same spot that the real airplane, the tablet, the CDU would be, and I'll tap it that way, and I'll control the CDU that way, and it's just that much more realistic. I like to have that realistic interface, that realistic interaction with the sim. So I'm looking forward to that. I am thoroughly impressed. I wasn't, you know, and I should have had more faith in this community. But look at that, like, you know, like, that's a lot of backers. Like, they got $500,000 in the bank. 3,100 people backed this, and like, there were 1,500 almost, and it just went up again. Another person just backed it. 1,500, 2,000 people backed it within that first, you know, 30 minutes of them opening up this Kickstarter. They had sold out the first one in the first block in minutes. The second block sold out probably, I think, by the end of the day. So yeah, it was quite something. It's quite gratifying to see this. Like, you figure, like, there's quite a lot of people that do fly the Fenix, that like the Fenix, and all the different Airbuses. So you had to figure that this was going to be popular. I was kind of fingers crossed that, you know, I wasn't like right there, primed and ready to click on it at the time of release, but like, I kind of knew when it was, and I knew it was coming up, and I was just sort of I was doing something else on my computer. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll open that up as soon as I realize it. The email came in. It was like, oh yeah, look at that. Like 3 minutes after the email came in, and I was like, oh yeah, I better go to Kickstarter and pick that. And by the time I already clicked on Kickstarter, it was already, the 99 stuff was already gone. The $99 deal was already gone. The first 1,000 people had already clicked it. People were all over that. So, anyways, I'll be excited to see that. It's going to come in November, I believe, is the target shipping date. So the Kickstarter closes at the end of June. They're gonna basically start the production run sometime over the summer, and by November they should be shipping these things out. So hopefully by then my hopefully by then I'll have some of this money saved away. I'm probably going to take the next time I get a paycheck from either Twitch or YouTube, I'm going to take basically the entirety of that and put it towards paying off the credit card for that MiniFCU. But I think it's going to be a fantastic addition to my flight deck here. I don't even know where to put it, because I kind of want it to be almost up here, almost at eye level. Like in the real aircraft, like it's a little bit below eye level, but like the glare shield is basically kind of it's about here. So I want it to almost be higher, and I was kind of thinking, putting it right on top of my honeycomb, which is sort of sitting on top of my desk. But even that would almost be a little bit low. But it's in the right basic spot. The thrust lever's kind of a little bit in the way of it, but not terrible. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. I'll have to play with it when I get it. But that would seem to be like the natural place for it to go. My father commented the one time he came over. seemed to be slowly building an airplane in my basement out of spare parts, one little piece at a time. You take these things home from work or what? Maybe he's right. Maybe I do. Hold on. Somebody else is online here. Who else is online here? Oh, that's LA Center. No, that's not going to help us. We're well into Denver Center. Then we're going to go through Salt Lake on our way to Seattle. Did we cross through Oakland at all? No, straight from Salt Lake into Seattle. So LA Center came online. That didn't help me, but maybe Portland will be online by the time we get there. Anyways, I'm pretty excited about that MiniFCU. That looks like it's going to be a really fun product. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully the shipping's not too outrageous. Even at the end of the day, like it's what am I trying to say here? I can't even think what I'm trying to say here. Even at the end of the day, like I'm not going to be, I'm not spending all that much on it. And if it really works out that it's not compatible with Fenix, maybe I'll fly the fly-by-wire a little bit. The other option, of course, is to sell it. If it really comes down to it, I'm sure I can find somebody who'd like it for, if I can sell it again for the Kickstarter price that you won't find anymore. Basically, I don't even have to make a profit off it. As long as I get my money back on it, I'd be okay with that. The shipping's a little bit more, but if I can find somewhere not too far from me, certainly live in a pretty big metropolitan area, hopefully somebody around here would want one of those. How are we doing here? We're almost halfway there. I feel like I've already covered most of my topics of conversation, and we're only halfway there. How do we get the rest? What do we do for the rest of the trip? Slowly crossing those mountains. All right, plug your ears, guys. Go into the outside view for a little bit here. Crossing some of the highest terrain in North America here. Certainly in the lower 48, anyways. Just southwest of Denver here. So there's mountains up to 14,000 feet here. Just passing south of Telluride there. I think Telluride is right there, maybe. One of these meetings here. It's Telluride, Colorado. Absolutely deep chasm here. Telluride over here. Maybe that's Telluride right there. That could be Telluride right there. I'm not even looking at the airplane anymore. I've looked at the airplane so many times. What is that? Is that Grand Junction? We are are we over Grand Junction right now? No. That's Montrose. That must be Montrose Airport. Nice big long runway. But you kind of need that when you're up in the mountains, when you're at probably 7,000 or 8,000 feet ASL. Even a 172 is going to need 5,000 or 6,000 feet to get off the ground if you're at 7,000 feet. Tend to need some long runways at airports up in the mountains. That was Montrose, Colorado there. This is probably Grand Junction here, or maybe it's a little further along. A little further up this valley here. Probably a little further up the valley. We've still got like 50 miles to go. How far do we got to go here? 50 miles. Hey, 51 miles. Called it. Probably up here, I think. Grand Junction, Colorado, with this north-south kind of highway meets the interstate that comes west out of Denver. I can't think of the interstate. A little too much time with American Truck Simulator myself. What can I say? I love the simulator games. They are one of my favorite genres. I love a good simulator game. I've been playing. What have I been playing lately? I've been playing a lot of Satisfactory lately. There's a new update coming that's going to finally allow you to blow up the blow up the giant alien gas generating, toxic gas generating hives or whatever they're called. So that'll be nice to get rid of that. City skylines as well. I enjoy a good management sim as well. I enjoy like a good management sim, but I love the simulations as well. Another game that I'm kind of that I do enjoy, and I'm going to start replaying again soon. Derail Valley. I don't know if you guys have ever played Derail Valley, but it's a really kind of a fun, neat little game. I mean, it's a little railroad simulator, but it was designed with VR in mind, which is what kind of makes it really neat. So, like, in order to actually couple up the trains, you actually have to get off the train, go up. You've got it's kind of a bit of an unrealistic. It's a chain and it's a link and chain coupler, which is not very common really at the end of the day. But you know, most railroads are using you know, knuckle style couplers of some kind. But yeah, you actually have to get out there. You have to actually grab the chain, hook it over the next one, hook up the air brakes, open the valves, and then you can get back in the locomotive and go. So it kind of neat the level of interactivity with it that way. Really designed for VR, so that's why it's got that kind of level of interactivity. But even without VR, it still works really nicely. It still works really well. But yeah, so at the end of this month, Derail Valley is coming out with a new a mega update. Basically, they've kept the updates very minimal for the last year or so because they've sort of been working on like a real huge rewrite. So they're introducing all sorts of aspects now to it. They're introducing weather and night. So before it was always daytime, and you know, you're just sailing around and whatever. Now there's going to be a complete day-night cycle. There's going to be rain and mist and everything to kind of add some ambience to the whole thing, and it's going to affect how you operate the aircraft. At night, you're going to have to carry around a flashlight. It's going to be very dark, and if you don't charge your flashlight, apparently it's a solar-powered flashlight, so you have to recharge during the day. If you don't take it out during the day and charge it, you won't have it available at night. You won't be able to see stuff. There's, you know, so the lighting looks very good now. They've changed some of the, they've improved the scenery, dynamics. Supposedly they're going to add AI trains running around. So, you know, up until now, like, it's basically you control everything, and you can control more than one train. You can get out of one train and start up another train and start it going, and like they'll just keep going. You know, the part of the fun is that they also derail. If you go take the corners too fast, you know, you slam into things too hard, you know, you'll damage stuff. You'll have to refuel and repair your aircraft. Like, it's a fun little simulation. It's very in depth. I've enjoyed it in the past, and it's a fun little interesting challenge to kind of get these trains up and running. And some of the hills are quite steep, so you really have to kind of plan your job, like, and plan your routing. You can take the longer, flatter route. You can take the steeper, more direct route, but you have the power. Does the locomotive you're approved for and licensed for have the power to get up there or not? So it's a fun little game. There's going to be a big major update to it dropping at the end of this month. So I'll probably start toying with it again a little bit after that, having some fun with it. I don't know if they're going to reset your cache or not, if the same license that you had before will still be there. But it's been a fun game. I've enjoyed it, and I will definitely want to continue using it again. But yeah, I really am all about the simulation games. I've played various train simulators over the years. And I want to like train simulators. The trouble with train simulators in the long run, I think, is just they tend to be very static. You sort of have one or two lines you can run along for the most part, and they tend to get very repetitive. Aviation is usually a little bit more variety, and especially Microsoft Flight Simulator, the whole world, you know, is at your fingertips. Whereas most of the train simulators, it's usually one specific route. But I have enjoyed some of them. You know, I enjoy them usually the first couple times I run a route, and then I start to get bored with them after a while. But yeah, even what was that subway simulator called? There used to be a subway simulator called too. World of Subways, that was what it was called. And I even enjoyed that one too. I enjoyed those ones, especially some of the more realistic ones. Then they did the what was it? The Q train out into Queens. Was it the Q train? I can't even think what it is. The one that goes all the way past. Goes all the way out to Flushing Meadows, past the Met Stadium. I can't think of what it is, but that was really quite interesting, just to sort of see that whole scenery and the dynamics of that. What I really got to like, though, too, is in the train sims genre, and I thought was really kind of a neat change, a neat take on the train simulator genre was came out just recently, was called SimRail, where it's not just about the trains, but you can also be a dispatcher. So basically kind of a la VATSIM, where you can log on as an engineer, and you can run your train from one end of the line to the other. But also you can log on as a dispatcher and control different various stations and the junctions around there and route the trains that other people are controlling. So, some of the trains, the trains will kind of run on a certain schedule, and some of them will be AI trains. But then if you log on, you can take over an AI train and start controlling it yourself. So, real people out there or AI controlling it, but much like we have controllers on VATSIM, you can also be a dispatcher, or there's an automated AI dispatcher when there's nobody logged on to the various stations. So I thought that was a really kind of a neat idea, taking some of the fun of VATSIM, because to me, I think the thing that I find fascinating in a lot of times about a lot of these simulations is logistics. Is how do you get from A to B? That's why I find oftentimes the factory games and the city simulators also very interesting. Is dealing with logistics. How do you get people from point A to point B? How do you get goods from point A to point B? How do you build the most efficient factory that takes these inputs, puts them together into various machines, and gets them out the other side in the quickest, most efficient way possible? Those are the kind of things that always kind of interest me. Those are the puzzle games that interest me. I know we just passed Grand Junction. I don't think I'm going to do a field check there. I've done quite a lot of field checks already. Just looking over here, we're almost through 10% or into Salt Lake shortly here. And nobody online in Salt Lake either. But yeah. I'm always on the simulation genre, and that's why aviation, especially VATSIM, really you start to deal with the logistics of aviation. You're dealing with multiple aircraft taking off and landing. I logged on for just like an hour and a half last night onto Toronto Tower. There was somebody on center, so I just said, you know what, I'm going to do Tower. It's a small scope. And sometimes it's fun to do center and be able to control like a wide area and be dealing with the nice thing about controlling wider areas in VATSIM is usually you're dealing with more traffic. But I decided to log on to Tower and just do a local controller. And after about 20 minutes, and I got all of a sudden a whole bunch of people popped online within that first 20 minutes I was on there, and then the ground controller came online. So then I was doing very little. Then I was just doing the takeoffs and landings. But I enjoy being the tower controller and being like the sole local controller at a major airport, doing tower, ground, and clearance delivery, trying to get aircraft in and out, trying to do it efficiently, trying to plan stuff. But the nice thing about it too is that you can really kind of focus, because you're controlling just one airport. You really kind of focus. The trouble with center is that you get more workload, but oftentimes you're not doing the job as effectively as you would be if you have a smaller workload. You're able to more focus, and so that's why sometimes I do like to do just arrival or just tower, just to do the most, just to kind of. Just to kind of really focus on one particular area and do a really good job at that area. Be really on the ball for everybody. Because even local stuff, like you get 6 or 8 aircraft on the ground at a major airport, and that's enough to keep one controller busy doing tower delivery and ground simultaneously. You get a couple airplanes that are all taxiing at the same time, trying to deconflict them and make sure that they're not aimed at each other. That alone is a pretty full-time job. So I kind of enjoyed that last night. Just doing tower. I was a little disappointed when the ground controller logged on. I don't want to stop anyone else from also logging on and having fun, but the ground is almost more fun than the tower. The tower itself is especially at a major airport, is usually pretty straightforward because it's just takeoffs and landings. Everybody's sequenced for you already by the arrival controller, so you don't have to worry too much about aircraft sequencing. You're just guarding the runways, making sure only one airplane is on the runway at a time. That's all you're really doing as a tower controller. It's an important job, don't get me wrong. It's not that I'm trying to belittle it, but in terms of the logistics and planning and trying to work stuff out and make stuff happen, ground and apron tend to be the more interesting positions at the local level than necessarily tower by itself. So let's see here. Let's see. I just got an email from the school that said that the kids are being kept inside for recess today because of the deteriorating air quality outside. So that's not something you see very often. They keep them inside for the rain usually, sometimes for the extreme heat or cold. But just because the air quality is pretty rare, the air quality in this part of the world gets bad enough that they feel they have to do that. Let's see here. Just trying to see what else has come out lately. There's New Philadelphia Airport, Jacksonville. There's a bunch of airports again. I think I talked about these my last year. I can't remember now, but Houston George Bush Intercontinental, and Calgary, and those are the ones that those are some of the ones that I'm interested in. Jacksonville, not bad, but not really a huge airport on my radar. But Houston Intercontinental, that's a big one on my radar. Calgary's a big one. I'm probably going to save some of my pennies for Calgary as well. And look at this, like we're heading northwest and we've got a tailwind of 40 knots. It's not a huge tailwind, but we're getting pushed towards our destination. What a weird and wacky weather. Heading northwest, picking up a 40 knot tailwind. Do I actually have the weather charts on here? Is it just the text? Oh, the weather charts are on here. Yeah, there they are. Yeah, here we are. This is right where we are through here. Yeah, 40 knot tailwind. What a very odd to have an easterly flow in North America. And this is going to pretty much carry on 40 to 50 knots. Looks like all the way to Portland. Starts to have to get to Portland, but yeah, it's right across Salt Lake City here. Get 40 knots on the tail the whole way. Weird. Very weird. Safer weather. It just shows us average wind. Ice. It shows us our TAS and METARs. METARs 194 minutes ago. Yeah, it's getting pretty old now. Pick up some active weather here in Portland shortly. What do we got? An hour and a half to go here, so we'll get some weather from Portland shortly. I think the one thing I need to do right now is just do a quick update on my escape route. So we've passed Denver, we've passed the high terrain there, but there is a little bit more high terrain as we kind of head northwest from Salt Lake City. It's not nearly as bad. In fact, there's actually very little high terrain once we actually get past Salt Lake City. The only thing I need to do is just get into Salt Lake City. So the one that I need is s10e radial 267. So I can remove some of these previous ones here. So we still need MTU, but we'll take this one out. So we'll replace this with s10e or s10e. Let's put G in there. Come on, G. Now I got two G's. s10e, what was the radial again? The radial was 267 into Wasatch. So just that'll help get us in there. So there it is. So that's our kind of last one there. Just see here. South side of that. Yeah, it's supposed to basically go right over FFU. Anywho, that's enough that we can figure out what we're doing anyways, so let me just remove some of the stuff behind us, get rid of some of the clutter. Blue means is far enough behind us as well that we can get rid of it. Keep MTJ for now. Alright, but there are our couple of escape routes here. We're definitely not over higher terrain. There's a little bit higher terrain as we kind of approach Salt Lake City. Once we get past Salt Lake City, we're pretty much home free as far as the terrain's concerned. All right. Hi. What else can we talk about? See if I can find something to kill the next 90 minutes. I don't know if you have to kill 90 minutes. I need to kill about the next 30 minutes, and then we can start setting up for arrival in about 30 minutes. Once we get about an hour out, we can start setting up for arrival. So, yeah. What else can we talk about? Oh yeah, that was the other one I want to talk about. So yeah, this is I was talking with some co-workers about this one. Let's see if I can find. Somewhere I had a diagram here, so I'm just trying to find it here. Because yeah, there was an incident in Austin, and this happened about a month or two ago. No, this is actually, sorry, this is back in February. I can't believe it was this long ago. We were just talking about it the other day, though. Somebody had a diagram of it, but I can't find it now. Because it really was like just absolutely shocking when you start to actually look at this. Anyways, here's one. Yeah. So the Austin airport incident, as they say, was a FedEx aircraft and a Southwest aircraft that got very, very close together over the runway. So it was the Southwest, yeah, so FedEx was on approach, and Austin Tower cleared Southwest for departure. It was, there was a bit, as I recall, as I read, I believe it was a bit foggy, so visibility was not great. So FedEx aircraft's on approach. The Austin Tower clears Southwest to depart on the same runway, and when they cleared them for takeoff, FedEx was like 7 miles final when they cleared them for takeoff, and Southwest, for whatever reason, I don't know if they weren't in position yet, took them a little while to get position, but for whatever reason it took them about like a good almost 60 seconds or 2 minutes to get rolling. So by the time they actually started rolling, the FedEx aircraft was just over a half mile of final. So they had started you know, with, I think it was 7 mile separation, like what should have been plenty of separation. And the Southwest airplane, for whatever reason, was not rolling particularly quickly, and so the FedEx airplane ended up catching up very quickly. They ended up at basically less than 0.6 of a mile final, and the FedEx aircraft actually saw the Southwest aircraft on the runway. They broke out. They saw the Southwest aircraft, and they actually they did a go around, and they actually called to Southwest to abort their takeoff. And Southwest opted not to, because they'd already passed 80 knots, so they were already in the high speed regime. So they decided that the greater risk was rejecting the takeoff. So they decided to continue the takeoff. And so they took off just as the FedEx basically caught up and flew almost directly over. It flew directly over their heads. They actually flew right over their heads. At this one point, they were at the same lat and longitude, and they were only 187 feet. The Southwest plane had just rotated, just started their climb out, and the FedEx airplane was trying to do the go around at an altitude of less than 200 feet. They actually came down to less than 100 feet behind them on the runway, and they caught up with them. Less than 187 feet, less than 2 wingspans. Like, if both aircraft had banked at the same time, they could have touched wingtips. Literally one right over the other. Like, just what a close call. Could have turned into an absolute total disaster. Just to look at some of the pictures here, but literally they just came one right over the other. And this one's 175 feet. This guy's just lifted off at 11 feet. You know, to the point where, like, you just see this airplane, and the FedEx airplane, forget what it was. I think it was a 6.7. So it's a bigger, heavier airplane. Then you got a wake turbulence risk even once but they're trying to accelerate. They're trying to do the go around. Southwest is trying to accelerate. They're trying to rotate, get off the ground here without hitting. They're so close that, like, neither of them can really do much of a turn to even get out of harm's way, because if they bank too steeply, there's a chance that they could even touch wingtips. Like, they're that close. That one was a little bit of a scary incident. I can only imagine what was going through the minds of Southwest pilots as they're sitting there watching this FedEx airplane slowly overtake them, just a couple hundred feet above them, and then I would think to myself too, as soon as I see this thing, like, first of all, I don't want to hit them. The second thing is, I don't want to hit the wake of a 767 in the takeoff configuration at full thrust at low speed. Like, it's a lot of wake turbulence. The slower you go and the dirtier you are, the greater the wake turbulence. Yeah, you be hitting that wake turbulence vortex for sure. The last thing you want to do is hit that, and even momentarily at just just barely 100, 200 feet above the ground, hit that wake turbulence and begin to start to bank very, very sharply in either direction. First of all, you don't want to hit the other aircraft. Second, you don't want to lose your climb rate when you're this close to the ground. So it really quite shocking to see how close these aircraft came. And there's even another picture of it there. The Southwest, yeah, so I guess they weren't even in position when they were originally cleared for takeoff. It took them a long time to get position lined up, and you know, meanwhile, FedEx is trucking down final. Tower's not really watching. Tower's probably barely watching and kind of keeping their fingers crossed. It's going to work out just fine. really at the end of the day, like the tower probably should have pulled this off sooner. Should have called FedEx for the go around a lot sooner. You know, the controllers in America, they're under a lot of pressure to push tin. Yeah. Anyways, like you can see how close these airplanes got. Like this guy's rolling down the runway, he's just starting to rotate. This guy's trying to do the go around, trying to reconfigure, retract the flaps, get full thrust going, trying to get the airplane climbing. And it doesn't happen instantly, especially in a 767. It's a big airplane with a lot of inertia. It's going to take some time to change directions. Yeah, I can only imagine what's going through the minds of these guys as they're sitting there watching this. So close to disaster. And this is what happens. But you see this happen too. Like it's funny because it came up just like a week or two ago. I believe it was an American airline pilot, or maybe it was a Southwest pilot, did two consecutive go-arounds in San Francisco, and the cause was because there were still aircraft on the runway. The tower told the pilot, oh, you know, you can blame the approach controller for putting people together too close on final. But at the end of the day, maybe they are too close on final, but the tower controller has to work within those parameters that they see. They can't just shrug their shoulders and say, well, they're a little bit too close together, but I'm going to launch somebody anyways. I really would put the blame on this one on the tower controller. You can complain about the approach controllers vectoring all you like, but if you put someone else on that runway for takeoff, you know, when someone's on approach, that's your prerogative. That's your control right there. That's nothing to do with your arrival control. The arrival controller may be placing them too closely together. Then you don't launch them in between. You don't just try and squeeze them out anyways and say, you know, if it goes wrong, because the same aircraft, I want to say it was American or Southwest. I can't remember which. They did an approach in San Francisco. They got pulled off because the airplane ahead was too close on the takeoff roll, and so they got sent to go around. They brought it around again for another visual approach. Same thing happened the second time. The tower put another airplane out in front of these guys again, and they had to do another go around. And by that time, as a pilot, I'd be like, okay, now I'm starting to get upset here. Like, you guys are not doing your jobs properly here, and I would be getting pissed too. So I would say the same thing. I'd be like, guys, what are you doing? Like, you've got to do your jobs. You've got to keep the aircraft separated safely. If you can't get the airplane out departed safely between the departure and the arrival, then you shouldn't be putting them out there on the runway to begin with. I don't care how many people you got in line. Call the center control, call the arrival controller, and ask for bigger holes if it's not working, or better speed control, or whatever you need to meet the parameters. But don't just put people out there just because you don't have the correct spacing. But controllers in America are under such pressure to get aircraft moving, to push tin as fast as you can. And the system is great when it works, but sometimes you get guys who are perhaps a little less experienced, but they see you know, their more experienced counterparts pushing tin really, really hard, pushing airplanes out quickly, side by side. And they say, I can do that too. And then somebody drops the ball a little bit. Somebody stumbles a little bit. They get a little too close. They're a little bit too slow getting to position. Something happens just on the takeoff rolls. Something, you know, it brings to mind another incident that happened in Toronto like 3-4 years ago. I think it was pre-COVID, I'm pretty sure. But an Embraer was departing on 24 right Toronto, and they rejected the takeoff for a reason that I can't remember, but they got to a decent speed. I think they might have passed into the high-speed regime, rejected the takeoff. And meanwhile, the tower had cleared a heavy aircraft behind them, a 777 or an 87 for takeoff behind them. And the Embraer crew did announce that they were rejecting the takeoff. However, their transmission was stepped on by another transmission, so the tower never heard it. The tower thought they were airborne because the way the Embraer transponder works, it says you're airborne once you exceed a certain speed. I think it's 80 knots. If you exceed 80 knots, the Embraer transponder says we're airborne. And so the tower thought they were airborne. They didn't actually look out the window. They saw the guy rolling down the runway, looked away, cleared the other guy for takeoff, didn't see the guy reject, didn't hear his transmission. And so the Heavy starts rolling down the runway, and this airplane in front of them has stopped, and it took them a little while to suddenly recognize that, oh, the aircraft ahead of them on the runway had stopped, and so they had to slam on the brakes. I think they came to within 1,000 feet or so, stopping of the position where the Embraer had stopped. Again, like we do things so often, they become routine. We stop seeing the risk because it happens so often, and sometimes we pound these airplanes out really tightly together. You got to make sure that we've got sufficient separation. Like that really is on the tower controller. I think the San Francisco tower controller tried to throw the NorCal approach controller under the bus, and even when the pilot got back on with the approach controller, he says, the tower says it's your fault. And the approach controller's like, I don't know what to tell you. I have no control of the takeoffs. I'm sequencing you guys on final. That's the end of my job. You know, at the end of the day, it's the tower control that has to control what happens on the runway, which is totally true. I really want to put the, you know, it's not that I want to blame necessarily, but we want to, you know, make sure things are happening safely. We want to make sure, hold people accountable to the point where, in the sense that, like, if you're doing something that's putting people at risk, maybe we need to change the procedure and change what you're doing. Anyways, I think I'm going to step away for a little bit because my coffee is empty, my stomach's empty, my bladder is full. So between those three things, I kind of need to step away for a few minutes here and have a little bit of lunch, and that way I'll come back in like 15 minutes, set ourselves up for an arrival, and yeah, we'll take it from there. But yeah, I think I'm just going to step away for just a few minutes. Hopefully that'll give me some time to brainstorm something to talk about. If you guys want to hear about something, please let me know, but otherwise, it's been a good 2 hours. I'm going to step off the flight deck just for a few minutes here. And yeah, we'll get a nice external view going on so you guys can actually watch the scenery go by, because we're going right over Salt Lake City right there, right now. There's the airport right there. Going over Salt Lake City right now. But yeah, I'm going to step out for about 15 minutes. No more than that. Just to grab myself some lunch, refill my coffee cup, etc. And then we'll be ready for our approach briefing at that point, probably. So in the meantime, guys, stick with me. You know, if you want to step away for a few minutes as well, just make sure you come back about 15 minutes. We'll start setting up for our arrival into Portland. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you guys all just a few moments here. Alright, everybody, Captain Abs back with you once again in the flight deck and sailing on our way to Portland. I see a bunch of you started watching now, so I'm actually going to just, while we're here, not that anything has happened yet, but we're going to just jump in here and just up the failure rate here. So see that the number of guys watching, number of people watching the stream has gone up, so there we go. So we're going to just increase that a little bit. Hope that something's going to happen. We've only got 1 hour left of our flight now, so I'm a little bit skeptical that much is going to happen. But we're definitely going to try. Pardon me. I don't know if it's just all the talking or the smoke or if it's maybe a combination of the two, but my throat is definitely bothering me a little bit today here. It's not great. Okay, let's see here. What was I going to do here? See, I literally, you don't do it right away. You forget what you're doing. You forget everything you're trying to do. Anyways, let's sync this up. Let's have a look-see around the flight deck. Make sure nothing happened because I was out of the flight deck for about 15 minutes there. We're going to have a quick look around the whole flight deck. Make sure nothing untoward has happened. Everything is where it should be. I don't see any yellow lights. The FO didn't click the accept any caution lights for me when I wasn't looking. No, looking good. We did pass. We're about to pass TWF, so I can do a fuel check here momentarily, which is good. That'll get us all up to date there. I don't see anything untowards here in the flight deck. Everything looks exactly where it should be. Still don't see anybody online in Portland here. Oh, we do have a ground controller in Portland. Haha! We do have a ground controller. He's been online for 55 minutes already. Don't see him because he's not in range, but we do have a ground controller, which means we have an ATIS. So we can actually do that. So let's do this here. So first of all, let's do our fuel check here as we pass TWF. Time and fuel check. Alright, so TWF at 1640, 10.6. Which I guess is Twin Falls, yeah. Alright, 1640 and 10.6. Alright, so quick little analysis here. We are 6 minutes early at Twin Falls. So yeah, we put up the cost index 100 in hopes that we would make up about 10 to 15 minutes, make this flight a little quicker for you guys, and it definitely worked. However, the penalty was that we have burned a little bit of extra fuel here. We were supposed to have 11.5 passing Twin Falls. We're down at 10.6, so we're short 900 pounds of fuel. Fortunately, we had, pardon me, 1,700 pounds of extra to start with. We had 20 minutes of extra fuel to play with, so that shouldn't be a problem. 10.6. Let's just have a look here. So I believe our fuel to divert to our alternative Seattle was 5.2. Pardon me, I really got something in my throat here, or just too much talking. 5.2, and we are showing Portland with 6.8. So we are still showing about 1.5 extra when we get to Portland. So we're burning into the extra, but not at a rate that we're not going to have enough fuel when we get there. We should still have plenty of fuel to definitely do a second approach and come around and try again before we have to consider going off to our alternative Seattle. And also, it's a lovely day in Portland. So the odds of us missing in Portland and having to go elsewhere are pretty slim. Winds are 170 at 6, 10 miles, clear skies, 17 degrees, 2990. Little cool. A little bit cool over there on the west coast, but not terrible anyways. Alright, so we're going to start thinking about our arrival a little bit here. This time we're going to start at the beginning. We're going to start with the NOTAMs. Because if there's NOTAMs affecting the approach like there were last time I came in here, there's no point in planning an approach I can't fly. So let's see here. Extended area around destination. I don't want the extended area. I want the destination alternate. There we go. Destination, airport, NOTAMs. Portland. Alright, and I guess we should probably just pull up Navigraph as well and just compare the two, because that'll just make it easier. Thinking about it. Okay, so let's pull this over here, get this over here. Portland, airport info. I'll start planning for this arrival here. Alright, so let's skip to runway first. 10 right, 28 left closed. Well, that solves that problem there. 10 right, Pappy's unserviceable. First lighting unserviceable. So everything for 10 right, 28 left seems to be unserviceable. 03, runway 21 closed. Okay. So that makes it easy. So then Charlie, between Charlie 6 and Charlie 8, well, yeah. This right here, Bravo 1, between Bravo, taxi Bravo between Bravo 1 and 0321, this area up here, Mike between Bravo and runway 0321 closed, yep, that's fine. Line over here, so it's not really impacting us, Golf, 0321 southwest ramp closed. There it is. Alright, and anything on the approaches here? Less than 10 right. Yeah, we know that's all closed. Alright, I don't see anything for 10 left. There's one for 10 left. RNAV, RNP. 10 left. Straight in ILS. Straight in ILS has got higher minimums. For 10 left, but I don't see 28 right on here at all. So, alright, let's go into the ACARS system here. And by ACARS, I mean I'm going to right click and VATSPY. And we're going to see what's going on in Portland. 10 miles clear, simultaneous visual approaches in use, 28 left and 28 right, except that 28 left is closed. Alright, so it looks like they're doing a west flow 28, so 28 right it will be for arrival. Alright, that solves that question there. So we're going to do 28 left for arrival. We'll pick up a gate here. Why don't I pick up a gate first before I get too far into this here? Because that's also useful to have, is gate information. Alright, so flight aware. Let's see, the last time Alaska flew a plane from DFW up to Portland. On the way. There are 2 flights on the way. I love it. None of them are actually Alaska Airlines flights. I'll take the last one that came in here. Pardon me. The last one that came in here went to gate Charlie 7. Alright, so open the charts here. Gates and coordinates. Charlie 7 is right over here, so it's going to be a bit of a long taxi around the whole terminal to get to Charlie 7. That's fine. Alright, and yeah, actually we need an approach as well, so we're going to plan on the ILS runway 28 right. Alright, ILS runway 28 right, we got the hood arrival. And expect visual and Schaefer. And yeah, Schaefer does look like it's a transition, so perfect. So we can link this all together nicely here. Let's do that. ILS 28 right. We want the Schaefer transition, and that will link us directly with our arrival. And then we should be good to go. All right, let's do this. Let's have a look here. Let's do plan mode here. And let's go ahead and go legs. Step through this here. Alright, I need to zoom in a bit more to be able to see what I'm actually doing there. So, alright. Let's just make sure this is all in here. So the arrival via Jotba above 240. Soda above 17,000, due for Jotba Soda, due for Rabbi. Rabbi should be 270 knots above 13,000, it is. Hood, 250 knots, 15 to 9,000, yep. Bull Run, and then Schaefer at 210 knots at 6,700. Yeah, that appears to be there. And then after that, after Schaefer, we're on the approach. So Schaefer to Reedy. And then Nasi, Omsi, Tolock, 28 right. Let's see here, Reedy. So Reedy's above 57, Nasi above 37, Omsi 29, Tolock 2000. Yeah, that's all there. Alright, looks all good. Let's make sure this approach is dialed in there. 111.3 and 283. So 111.3. So 111.3, 111.3, 283 the inbound course, and 281 the ILS minimums. Set course on your side, 281.
281 set.
You did it, nice, very good. Minimums 281.
Checked.
Oh shoot, it's 283.
Checked.
Go away. 283, 281 is the minimums. What's crazy is the altimeter setting is exactly the same in Portland as it was in Dallas. Alright, just below the bottom of the Navigraph grid there, 280. 281 for the minimums, perfect. ILSDA minimums. Alright, and then let's just check the missed approach as well here. straight ahead 600 feet to climb a right turn to 4200 and direct battleground VOR BTG. Hold, continue climb and hold to 4200, so 4200 to hold at BTG after 600 foot turn. Alright. Perfect. Yeah, I think that's everything we need in there. Seems to be linked up nicely together. Should have a top of descent point visible on there. Yeah, look, I see it there. Top of descent's in about 200 miles still, so still a little ways to go, but we can start talking about it anyways here. I think what we'll do is we'll just wait till we pass Boise here in about 2 minutes, and then we'll start this approach briefing, this route briefing here. Good times, good times. All right. This will be probably just about the last fuel check we have to do here. All right, just a little too high. There we go. Now I can see it. All right. So Boise, we're supposed to be here at 16:58. Looks like we're going to be 6 or 7 minutes ahead of schedule. And fuel at 9.6. Again, we're down 900 pounds, which is pretty much where we were before. So we're not losing fuel greater than we expect. And it makes sense given the higher cost index that we're flying. I just wonder if the clock's going to flip over to 2 or if it's still going to be 1 when we pass Boise here momentarily. Looks like it flipped over to 2. So 16:52 it is, 16:58, 9.6 in the tanks. Still looking okay. Just about to enter the Seattle FIR, and Kimberly, IMB, I guess is the last fix we're going to hit up here, and then we'll be direct to the first fix on the star. All right, we're getting there. We're getting there. Things are happening slowly but surely. Still a very clear day out here on the west coast. Doesn't even look all that hazy out here. Not like it is outside. I kept my kids in the recess just because it's that the Public Board of Health believes that the air quality has gone down that much that the kids shouldn't even be outside. They're supposed to have track and field meet tomorrow, and it sounds like it probably is going to be canceled due to the conditions. But you don't want to be straining yourself. Like I have a couple projects I need to kind of go do outside, but I really don't want to do anything outside that requires any strain at all today because it's that hot and hazy out there. You don't want to breathe in a whole lot of this air outside if you can avoid it. So what I should do is clean off the filter today. Anywho, all right. Let's see here. You have control.
I have control.
Are you ready for the approach briefing?
Go ahead.
All right. Actually, before I do the approach briefing, the one thing I always tend to forget is the briefing panel here. So, pardon me. All right. So, star ILS, landing flap 30. That's the plan. I got to put some speeds in there for that. Auto brake 3. That's fine. Gate. APU delayed start is good. Terrain's a threat around Portland. Minimums are at 281. Missed approach altitude is 4,200, and the final approach fix at 2,000. There we go. Now it's ready. It'll monitor all my approach parameters properly, and we need to just set up a rest speed here. One day soon. PMDG keeps promising. One day soon, we're gonna have this. We're going to have the EFB in the flight deck, and then we'll be able to get performance calculations, verify all the stuff we need to verify. Alright. I can probably also just clear out all those fixes now because it's been... We've left the tall part of the Rockies far, far behind us, and we're going to be on the star shortly here as well, descending through the mountain pass. All right, so today we are doing the hood for arrival into Portland. This is on plate 10-2 Alpha, and effective on the 7th of December of 2017. Speed restriction. Turbojet aircraft descend via Mach number until intercepting 280, maintain 280 until slowed by the star. So actually I should be doing that. So target speed, descend on Mach number until we intercept speed. Nope. 200 to 80. Alright, so it's going to be Mach 0.801. And speed, it'll slow to 280. Perfect. Let's see here. From a hood, track 257 to Bull Run. We've already checked all these waypoints. We're going around this mountain here, so we got to keep an eye out for it. Be aware of it. And we are going to basically just do the transition directly onto the ILS for 28 right. There is a Schaefer transition. So after Schaefer, we go to Reedy. And over to the ILS 28 right. So this is split 11-5, effective on the 1st of February of 2018 for Portland International, Portland, Oregon. Loc ILAP 111.3, 111.3 is set both sides, and the final approach course 283 also set both sides. Glide slope at Tolock 2000, and the ILS DA of 281. 281 we got set. Touchdown zone at 31 feet. The airport elevation is locked in at 50 feet for the pressurization. And missed approach is climbed to 600 feet. And climbing right turn to 4,200 feet. Direct battleground VR and hold. Continue climb and hold to 4,200. So straight ahead to 600. Right turn, direct battleground, hold at 4,200. Southwest approach authorized. Not possible with the runway closed. Feature side left, not constant. Okay. And it's question though. There's no times on these. Any of these. Could it be only closed at night too? That's the other thing you gotta consider. Alright, anyways, the sector altitude around Portland. The sector with the airport is 3,400, but off to the north and east of the airport it goes up to 6,000 because of this high terrain. So potentially 3,400 west, 6,000 north and east. And yeah, 3-degree glide slope. Pappy's on the right on this approach. We're going to take a convenient convenient right turn off of runway 28 right. Probably Alpha 3, Alpha 5, maybe Alpha 6. Either way, we got to go all the way around to. We're going to go around via Tango to get to Charlie 9, which is down here somewhere. So it's a little bit of a long taxi around to the gate. So we won't start the APU right away. We'll start a couple minutes after we. Once we get probably in the middle of the concourse here, we'll start the APU. Sure to set up GSX to receive us at gate Charlie 9. And that's about it. Terrain around the airport, obviously high terrain to the east, as we spoke about, 6,000 foot MSA to the northeast of the field. Weather, it looks like VFR day though. We do have ATC online. No MELs, no failures that have occurred yet. And fuel, again, we've been pretty conscious of the fuel situation the whole time, but let's take one more little review here. As part of the briefing here, we're showing right now overhead Portland with 6.8 pounds. Oh, it's 6.8 in the tanks. We need 5.2 to go to Seattle. So we've got an extra 1,600 pounds. We could definitely do one go around, come back and try it again before we have to seriously consider whether to go off to Seattle or potentially drop the alternate and stay in the area. But we definitely have one go around in us without too much issue. And that is basically all I got. Any questions?
No questions.
And he does a bunch of stuff, clicks some buttons, does some things, make sure everything's functioning normally. Right after Kimberly, because the approach is a little slower now, right after Kimberly we're going to start down there, so about 120 miles. It's not a short jaunt from Dallas. And then I believe next up on our epic trek across America, I believe is Chicago O'Hare. Let's just check the schedule here. Is he done? Oh, he is. Descent checklist. Descent checklist.
Descent checklist. Pressurization. Landing altitude is 50 feet. Recall checked. Auto brake level 3. The landing data. Autopilot off. Autopilot on.
VREF 148. Minimums 281 feet.
VREF 148. Minimums 281 feet. Approach briefing.
Completed.
Descent checklist complete.
Beautiful. All right, so next up on my pilot's life schedule, yeah, is a Chicago O'Hare turn that ends up in that ends up in Seattle instead of Portland, and then we do a couple legs in and out of Seattle. So after that, we'll have a short one. We'll have Jackson Hole and back. That's a short, relatively short flight. Stop listening. Looks like maybe a 2-hour flight. We could almost do that turn in a single stream if we go really quick. It's not even quite a 2-hour flight. It's 538 miles. It's a relatively short flight compared to this 1,400 miles to Dallas, 1,500 miles to Chicago deal here. So this is, yeah, Jackson Hole is going to be a little bit quicker. And then after that, we do Anchorage, which is actually not even quite as far as Dallas. It's 1,200 miles off to the northwest. We'll hope for some ATC for that one off the northwest. But I haven't been to Anchorage in a while. It's beautiful scenery up there, though. That's going to be a lovely trip, watching that scenery go by. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. You start to see kind of the valleys sort of starting to form ahead of us here. We're definitely getting down there. You know what I should do is I should throw terrain on for the arrival here so we can see what we're doing. And, yeah, we are otherwise pretty much set up and ready to go here for our arrival into Portland. Just gonna see if I can't send out a quick little note on my YouTube channel. All my YouTube channel notes ever do is just tell people to watch my Twitch streams. It's funny. Well, that's it. All right, post that really quick. There we go. Invites people to watch the stream, and yeah, what am I trying to do here? Let's see here. And once again, I had something I wanted to look up, and I forgot it. The second if you don't do it right away, it's gone. It's gone out of your brain. Forever. Forever and ever and ever. No, not forever, but I'm sure it'll come to me in a second here. What was I going to look up? I had that. I don't know. I don't remember. Oh, that's what I was going to look up. I was just curious to see if this is the one thing is that the Lido flight plans don't have times on them. So I just want to see if there is a limit to when the runway's closed. Is it like at night only? Because if that's the case, then it doesn't impact our arrival at all. But yeah, I want to see what the time on this is. So let's see if I can find runway. All right, so no, it looks like it's a long-term closure. It's down here right now. Well, not a long-term closure, but a closure anyways for several days. There's no daily marked on it. It's June 5th at 7:01 till June 9th at 2300. So it's definitely a couple days anyways, and it's been on and off for the last little while. So I have to imagine that they're doing some work on that runway because it's been on and off all summer. So yeah. Just make sure I'm not missing anything. I didn't see anything for 28 left. 28 right, I should say. Nothing for 28 right. No TAMs, nothing affecting our arrival on 28 right. So we can go right down to the Cat 1 minimums, no problemo. And we are definitely starting to fly over some higher terrain again here. It's definitely looking a little bit more rugged here. As I wonder if we must be over Oregon by now. I'd imagine we must be over Oregon by now. Let's see here. Will Navigraph tell me? Probably not. Okay, what if I do it this way? Then I can do this. Boise behind. That was in Idaho. Trying to see if I know the names of any of these places that we are over here. Kimberly. Yeah, no, we must be over Oregon by now, right? We might still be over Idaho, but if we are not in Oregon yet, we're getting very close to it. Pasco, Tri-Cities. I'm just trying to think, what's the eastern boundary of Pullman, Moscow? Just like it's GEG, right? Yeah, there it is. Spokane. So yeah, we are probably over Oregon right now. Alright, coming down to the end. If you guys have got anything to talk about, now's a good time to ask, because we're just about to start down. This is about just about the end of the road here. Last couple of minutes. And yeah, that was not an unreasonable length. These longer legs are a little bit more wearing on me. I have to put aside a bit more of my day. I really have to kind of put aside almost an entire school day, usually is what it ends up being, to kind of get these streams in. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. This is the time that I have off in my life. I am off generally Tuesdays and Wednesdays, most Thursdays. Sometimes a Monday, sometimes a Friday, but definitely working every Saturday, Sunday for the foreseeable future, and it's just not going to change anytime soon because I'm at the bottom of a new list, slowly trying to creep my way up the list, but yeah, it's something that, yeah, I'm not going to probably get a weekend off for the foreseeable future. If I do, it's going to be a fluke and not anything that was proper or planned. Just happened to be a little fluke of nature. Alright. I can see Portland ground now. He is in range, so let's just, again, request this aid is here. Information Zulu. Expect a mill visual. Now, I didn't even see a mill visual a minute. I wasn't looking for it, so let's have a look-see. Curious to see. Oh, there it is. Yeah, mill visual, 2.8 left to right. Cross between paper mill and FedEx distribution hub, recommended 3,000. Then Antna. So right on the Columbia River. And then you go and join the localizer at Antna. It is a strong, solid VFR day, so could we do that today? I would say we probably could. So why don't we do that? Now that I've done this whole briefing here. Why don't we do that? Why don't we fly the mill visual to runway 28 right instead? So we still need the same localizer, but we're going to intercept the localizer a lot tighter into the airport at about, say about a 5-mile final, you intercept final. Fly the river basically before that. So that's what we'll kind of plan to do then, I think, is we'll fly the river basically. Let's get the star back up here for a second. Let's find the Columbia River here. So there's the Columbia River. So basically at after Bull Run, instead of going to Schaefer, what we'll do is we'll just sort of take up a heading of about 270, intercept the river, follow the river down until we find the mill. Hopefully the mill is obvious in the scenery. I haven't done this, so this is going to be interesting. And I can put these waypoints in here. I wonder if the it's at all loadable here. VOR Alpha, no. TACAN approaches, no. Any chance that the RNAVs at all have these waypoints in? Nope. Well, we can put paper in there anyways. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do paper. I love a good visual approach anyways when you can squeeze it in there. So after Bull Run, Schaefer. So let's put it right here. Let's put paper. Sorry, PAAPR. Yeah, PAAPR, and then Antna. PAAPR. Yeah, so then we kind of go more direct, Schaefer, and then Antna. I'm going to leave the rest of this approach in here. Yeah, recommend crossing paper at 3,000, but we'll just sort of fly it that way. And we'll just intercept the localizer there, and by then we'll be flying it in localized low mode visually anyways. So, yeah, let's do that. Let's have a little bit of fun today. We're always doing ILS approaches. Let's do something that's not an ILS approach, right? Alright, what's the bottom altitude on the star here? We're going to descend via, where are we going to? We're going to 6,700. Alright, sure, I'll buy that. It sounds legit. Alright, we're going to do a descend via. So there's 6,700. Got a little bit of cloud hanging out here, but nothing crazy. Hey, Headshoot Man, welcome back to the stream. Nice to see you again. I did get I got the $129 deal, so not the 99. Didn't quite make that, but oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, actually, but yeah, so it wasn't quite the $99 deal, but I think it was totally worth it. So I did end up going with the MiniFCU, and yeah, I can't remember if it was you or somebody else said it, but like if I don't like it, I can always try and resell it, and I can probably resell it at least for what I paid for it. So I have very little to lose. But you're absolutely right. I didn't even check in on this, but there are a couple of friend requests in here. I did get some salary as well. 55, 50, 58, oh, $98 for the trip to Dallas 2 weeks ago. And there we go. We got a couple of people here friend requests, so let's go into my community and accept those. We are just about ready to start down into Portland here. You can kind of see it at the bottom of the screen there. Just there's Portland right there. We're going to actually do the mill visual today. So I haven't done the mill visual before, but it looks like a beautiful day out there. So friend request 2 new. Accept, accept, and there we go. Now I have 15 friends. Woo me. Nowhere near the top of this leaderboard here, though. Look at these people with like 198,000 experience points and $140,000. I have $3,800 in the bank and like 4,000 experience points. I'm not even close to even get to spot number 500. Way sitting at the bottom here, but that's okay. Yeah, I was literally just sitting at my computer doing something else, and the time just sort of got away from me, and I got my phone went off with the email. My phone went off with the email and said, Bing, the Kickstarter's open. I'm like, oh, shoot, yeah, boom. Flipped over the Kickstarter page, and I tried to get the $99 one. It was already gone. Like, I can't believe how many they sold. Like, that was very, very impressive, to say the least. There's Retard. We're starting down now, 34 down to 6,700. Yeah, they did a great job selling that. Like, no doubt they're going to go into production now, because it wasn't even like a mildly like, oh, some people bought it, some people didn't. They sold 3,600 units. So yeah, there's definitely a market for, and this is the thing, like, you know, I love a good hardware unit, and I want them to be reliable and everything, but boy, the higher end hardware for this hobby is expensive. Very expensive, and usually, and I guess it is because a lot of it's made in very short runs. Like a lot of the guidance panels and things like that, especially, very much either made in short runs or custom made. So no wonder they're expensive. But like it's something where it's not for the faint of heart. So to have like a mass-produced but somewhat accurate, like, and I certainly I question, like, and I wonder how many throttle quadrants did Thrustmaster sell? How many Airbus throttle quadrants did Thrustmaster sell? And side sticks, because you know, a lot of people like to fly the Airbus. It's great to have a somewhat realistic. Yeah, I thought about it. I definitely thought about it. But the thing is, I don't want to just fly the Airbus or just the Boeing. I like to fly a variety of aircraft. Like, you know, when I go to work, I only get to fly one airplane. So when I come home, I love to fly a variety of aircraft. So I end up investing money in the Honeycomb as a quadrant just because it's flexible. You can do all sorts of things. It doesn't do any one thing perfect, but it does a lot of things pretty well. You've got the autopilot control panel on there. You've got thrust levers that are swappable for GA versus commercial. Speed brake and flap levers, a whole bunch of other buttons on there. So it's a very nice kind of compromise. Yeah, you have the Airbus set, then the MiniFCU is definitely probably for you then. And I thought about it, I really did, because like having the correct controls, it really adds to the immersion. When you can actually flick the switch, you can actually go clunk, clunk, and move the engine masters into position. Like that really just sort of drops it in a whole nother notch. I remember the first time I actually flew with a yoke. Like I didn't have a yoke when I first was playing with Flight Simulator, mostly because I wasn't originally using it very much for my own personal flying. I was mostly using it to train controllers, so I was just doing the most basic stuff. So I'd grab over 172, I'd grab my gamepad with my joystick, and I'd just sort of fly around with that. It wasn't beautiful, it wasn't pretty, but the point was that I got some circuits done. And then the first time I sat down in front of the computer with the yoke after I bought a yoke and I rotated, I nearly got I got motion sick just from feeling the yoke and feeling that interactivity and making that motion. It made my body say, oh, we should be going up now, and I should feel some movements. Why am I not feeling G-forces? That it made my body feel very like, whoa, what's going on here? Sometimes just one more step towards that immersion really it's amazing how it can really put you in that frame of mind. The other time I think about that I felt the same sort of thing was the first time I took off in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I booted up a 152 at my old flight training airport. And so I actually did basically a circuit at my flight training airport. And when I rotated that time and I saw the ground fall away through my periphery, and I kind of saw the buildings that I recognized falling away, I got that same kind of like whoa moment. Like this feels, and I know it's not real, but like there's enough reality to it that immerses you, and you can play the game with your brain a little bit more. And even the same thing with the Honeycomb. Like the first time I got that, and I got the commercial quadrant out, and I used that. I was like, whoa, this actually kind of feels like the real deal now. Like having reversers on there and having the quadrant and being able to use the speed brake and the flap, in the right place. Like none of those things by themselves really sell it, but you start combining these things together, and you really start to sell it in your mind. And even when you go and get in a level D simulator, like everything's there where it should be. All the switches and buttons are there, but like in the back of your mind, you're in a simulator. You know that stuff's going to go wrong, but it's a simulator. You can't die from it. You can't kill yourself, but you still have to play the game. You have to be willing to. And as far as like training is concerned, you get as much out of it as you are willing to put in. If you just want to just be like, oh yeah, I know, this is the script, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, I just have to do this, and this, and you go in there with that attitude of I just have to check the boxes and get through this, you don't learn very much. But if you're willing to buy into it and say, okay, we're going to pretend we're flying, this is what happens when we're flying, how do we react? And you take that and you make it serious, you get a lot more out of it. The number one example I can think of too is like, every 6 months to a year, most companies will publish a new sim script. They all want to do the same thing over and over again, so they'll have like a recurrent cycle, and everyone will do their 6-month recurrent training, and then at the end of that first 6 months of the year, we'll go and we'll change the scripts, and we'll do a few different events. It'll be the same basic checking the boxes, but it might be a different event. Instead of a pressurization fault, now it might be a hydraulic fault, or it might be a generator fault. Something, some of the more benign stuff would do different things. And so the first couple people that go in, they don't know what to expect, but then once you get about a month into the whole cycle, enough guys have gone through it. There's usually some document floating around there somewhere on the internet that's like, oh yeah, these are the things you're going to do on this one. Watch out for this, watch out for this, watch out for this. Guys giving each other a heads up over what's going to happen when you get in the sim. Personally, I never read those documents. I hate them. I don't hate them. I understand why some people do them. You're just they're just playing the game. But at the same time, like, I personally, I believe I'm going to learn more if I don't know what's coming. If I know what failures are coming, I mean, it means I'm more likely to pass the scenario. But more than that, like, I'm not going to get any training benefit out of it. Oh yeah, I know that exactly this is going to happen, and this is the gotcha, and this is the reaction I'm supposed to have. Boom, done. Rather than let's take it off in a realistic way. Like, you know what you know from the manuals, but if something happens with a little bit of a weird twist to it, what are you going to do? And it's that reaction and evaluating your own reaction and learning that way. You're going to learn more than if you've already read the script and you've solved the problem because other people ahead of you have solved the problem. So yeah, yeah, it is dangerous to be prepared ahead of time. Yeah, I mean, and it's funny. There's a funny little folktale of a Japanese airline where it used to be the same kind of deal. Like everyone knew exactly what to expect on their current sim because everybody talked and everybody wants to pass, everyone wants to do well. So it was considered acceptable for everyone to know what's going on in the script. So one day the instructor's out there is in the back of the sim and he's setting up things, and then boom, engine fails, and the captain in the sim turns around immediately and says, "You failed the wrong engine." And it's like, does it matter which engine he failed? It doesn't matter which engine he failed. Fly the failure that's in front of you. Fly the failure that's in front of you. Never mind the script said he was supposed to fail the left engine and he failed the right one. It doesn't matter. Fly it, do it, deal with it. That's the whole point, of the training, is to make the most of it. You got to spend 8 hours in the sim every 6 months. You might as well get some benefit out of it rather than just go there and just say, yeah, we're doing this, blah blah. Your eyes glaze over because you've done it 100 times. Try and get something out of it. Try and learn something from it. You get to a point where, like, you know the scripts pretty well, you know your procedure pretty well. They're not going to fail you for like a minor thing. You have to do something pretty substantially incorrect to fail a sim ride. It is possible, and it happens from time to time, pretty infrequently, but it does happen from time to time. But you got to do something pretty bad, and most of the examiners too will also. They're not looking to fail you necessarily. If they can see you're doing really well and there was one minor thing that kind of flubbed a little bit, sometimes you'll get a do-over. You'll get a mulligan. You're like, okay, that didn't quite go so well. We didn't quite stay within tolerances on that. Let's do it one more time. Let's stay within tolerances. Boom, you get one more shot at it. You stay within tolerances. It's fine. The examiners are there to make sure that you can do the job. It doesn't have to be perfect every single time. Nobody's going to be perfect every single time. But we want to make sure you can do the job, stitch stuff together, be ready for stuff. So... you don't need to go in there paranoid about failing. You're going to learn a lot more if you're not paranoid about failing. The first couple times you go in the recurrent training, you're probably going to be paranoid about failing. As you start to go to more and more, you realize it's not that bad. You're going to get through these things. Anyways, then you just got to be ready to take more away. Be ready to take away. Learn something about yourself. Okay, I didn't know that procedure, or maybe I didn't know this. And examiners are always going to have something to talk to you about. There's always going to be something they can find. And I've always looked at it too. Like, depending on what they find, if they find something minor, if they're criticizing me, like for example, I heard an examiner one time turn to the candidate and said, well, it's pretty good, but the phraseology is flaps, not flap. We say flaps 10, not flap 10. If you're quibbling an S, take that as a compliment. If the guy is criticizing whether you included an S at the end of the word flaps or not, that means that he couldn't find much else to criticize. That's the worst thing you could find. I think we're doing pretty good. If that's the worst thing I do when I'm on the line is I say flaps instead of flap, or whichever, I don't think we have too much to worry about. That's some beautiful scenery coming up here, and transition set altimeter 2990.
Two 990 set, passing 15,200. Now.
Perfect. Okay, 21.9 up for ground right now, so I'm ready as soon as I clear the runway. Boom, 21.9. There's that mountain. We definitely don't want to hit that. 11,200, yeah, we're pretty much below the level of that, and you can see the Columbia River just carving over there to the north. So we're going to go straight across this mountain here, but then at Schaefer we're going to go straight ahead and intercept the river until we hit the mill across from the FedEx facility, is what it says. So cross between paper mill and FedEx distribution hub, recommended at 3,000. Let's try that one. We're going to try that one because I've done a bunch of ILSs. I know how to watch an airplane fly an ILS. Let's just hope I don't forget to get the gear down this time, because I call for the gear down, but I forget that this is a honeycomb. I have to put it down myself too. I can't just sit there and be like, gear down, da 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 da. I wonder why the gear didn't go down. I got to move that switch myself. Still good to say it and enunciate it too, but. beautiful day out here in Portland, though. Drag required, she says. FMC speed, I'm okay with it. We are pretty much within 10 knots of the speed limit here, so I'm okay with it. Nice little valley that wraps around the mountain too here. Slowly carved away by that river over millennia. Oh, I was flying over the Grand Canyon about 2 weeks ago, and oh my god, just in the middle of the day, just right over the eastern end of the Grand Canyon. What a beautiful sight. I kind of want to take my kids there just to sort of see it and witness it. It's just what a beautiful thing of nature. Alright, we've got to cross Hood between 15 and 9,000. It looks like we're pretty good for that. Looks like we're going to hit a decel waypoint as well because we got to cross at 250 knots. Unable 250 knots at Hood, she says. I believe in you, plane. I believe in you. I'm ready to give you a little bit of help, but I'm not gonna leap on it right away. I do love also the Airbus, the bracketing on the descent. The bracketing here's plus or minus 20 knots from your target speed, because how silly it is sometimes to be like, oh, we're 5 knots under the target speed and we're above the path. I'm gonna add power as well as pitch down. It's like you can descend at idle for so long, so nicely when you've got that little margin. So many of the things that the Airbus does, so well thought out. Make things just a little bit more efficient. Just think in the way a pilot thinks sometimes. I'm not pulling the speed brake out specifically right now because I know I got a little bit of time to decelerate here. I've got a leg where we're basically leveling off here. Might need a little bit of help, but it is slowly decelerating. We got about a 10 knot tailwind here. Okay, maybe we will be a little bit fast. Maybe it does need a little bit of help. But like, I wanted to see how much it would do on its own. I don't want to just immediately leap to the speed brakes and go crazy on it. I'll take some time and figure out if it's going to really need the speed brakes or not. Alright, but this time figuring out that it did not really slow down well on its own here. Alright.
10,000.
Approach checklist.
Stand by.
I think I'm going to lose points on my flight evaluation here for being too fast. So I should put a little bit more on it. Oh well. There we go. Well within the limit now. So Columbia River comes through this gorge right here. We're going to intercept it up ahead here. The airport is probably right about
Cabin crew,
there.
prepare for landing.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be arriving at our destination shortly. If you are making a connection to another flight, please see the customer service agent being used flight or video monitors and set terminals for connection.
At least this time the FS2 crew kept up with me. I don't know what happened last time. She got all bogged down and kept on falling behind. This time it's been fine. It's worked really well. The only thing I never got was I never got a response to the cabin crew when we were closed the door in DFW. That's about the only thing that glitched. Otherwise, it's been perfect. No pauses, no lag, no delay. Schaefer 6700, and we got across paper. Recommended 3000 in paper. Yeah, I got time for a question right now. It's pretty quiet right now, so yeah, go ahead, shoot. What's your question about pitch trim? Watching this, it's going down to make 6,700 there. It's good, looking good. Is there a speed restriction? There is a 210. It's Schaefer as well. Just kind of coming across these mountains here. And the Airbus A320neo, I usually set up the pitch trim based on a program I have which accepts ZFWCG as an input. It's something like, yeah, 0.9 down. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. That's a... Usually we make the calculation outside, but even if you don't, as long as you know what the takeoff C of G is, you can push it on there. So after engine start, I manually set the position. Is that what I should do? Yeah. So yeah, you should set it on the perf page in the Airbus. Make sure you set the pitch trim on the perf page, because if you don't set the pitch trim on the perf page, once you go to do the takeoff, it's going to reset to 0. It'll automatically reset itself to 0 if you don't have something programmed in there. So make sure it's on the perf page, and then yeah, you manually set it. But yeah, the key difference is that normally normally your weight and balance data will give you the ZFW C of G. you need to make sure that personally that you change that to the takeoff CFG. So it should calculate a takeoff CFG probably as part of your weight and balance, and that's what the pitch trim setting is actually based on. Is the CFG, the CFG at the takeoff position. But yeah, we do it on our aircraft. We normally do it actually in the before takeoff checklist, but at some point between the engine start and the takeoff. Flaps 1.
Speed check.
Alright, so we're just going to keep on sailing down the river
Flaps
here.
1 set.
Set altitude 3,000.
1,011. 3,000 set.
And put the speed to 210 for now. Set the PS, we don't need probably minus 2,000. Let's see. No, maybe we do need minus 2,000. Want to be level off just before paper. So just trying to find like a VS that's kind of hits just about right. Yeah, VS minus 16,700 should hit it just right. Okay, should that value change if the flaps are not 1 but 2? Yeah, so if you read what Airbus says that flaps 1, flaps 3 is required for short field takeoffs. And there's no specific number because of course it depends on the exact temperature and weight and everything. But it generally flap 3 is used for short field performance takeoffs. Flap 1 is required if you have a terrain clearance issues, if you need a steeper climb after takeoff. Flaps 2 is actually the compromise. So although a lot of airlines tend to use flap 1, Airbus recommends that if the field length and the climb are not limiting, that flap 2 is actually the normally chosen takeoff. It's mostly based on the field length. Yeah, but the CFG position should not change for a different flap setting. So your pitch trim setting should not change for a different flap setting in the Airbus. Some aircraft it does change, but in the Airbus it's balanced around the flap setting, so the flap setting should impact it.
Thanks, Captain. The cabin is secure.
All right. So I think I wonder if is this the paper mill here? Is this the paper mill and this is the FedEx hub? As far as I know, it doesn't based on flaps. Not in the Airbus, I don't think. Unless I could be incorrect. I'm pretty sure. We do almost always take flap 1 takeoffs, but yeah, Airbus' official word is that flap 2 is actually one of the better settings. Flap 1's good if you've got terrain clearance issues. I'm gonna guess that that's the paper mill, and that's the FedEx hub. We should be crossing the 3,000. Flaps 5.
Speed check.
Gear down.
Gear down. Flaps 5 set.
Set speed 180. Set speed 180.
180 set.
Approach checklist.
Approach checklist. Altimeters.
2990 set.
2990 set. Approach checklist complete.
Autopilot off. Arm ILS.
Checked.
Arm approach.
Radio altimeter alive.
Flaps 15.
Cabin crew, take your seats. Speed check.
Set speed 160.
163 set. Flaps 15 set.
Should have configured earlier for the steeper approach.
The final approach fixed, height checked, but the missed approach altitude is not set.
Flaps 25.
Speed check. Flaps 25.
Flaps 30.
Speed check.
Set speed 153.
Flaps 30 set. 153 set.
Set altitude 4,200.
4,200 set.
Landing checklist.
Landing checklist. Engine star switches.
Continuous.
Speed brake.
Armed.
Landing gear.
Down through green. Down.
Flaps.
Flaps 30, green light.
Landing check is complete. 1,000 feet. Not stable.
Understood. Correcting on the glide slope.
Sync rate. Sync rate. Sync rate.
I did not plan that visual approach very well.
Rate. 500.
500 feet.
Wiper off.
4. Sync rate. Sync rate.
Approaching minimums.
Sync rate.
Minimums.
Continue. Wipers off.
100.
Set wipers off.
50. 30. 20. 10.
Speed brake up. Reverses normal.
Well, I missed that one too, but it's okay. That was not the prettiest approach. A little bit unstable there.
60 knots.
Did not plan very well for that descent. Yeah, I was not impressed with that, to be honest. And I should have briefed it better. I should have planned it better for the descent. I really did not do a good job planning there at the end of the day. Yeah, looks like there's an Alaska taxiing out for departure. Nice. Alright, let's go ahead and do this.
Complete right departure if possible.
Okay to clean up.
5049, you cleared to Denver, lane for departure, complete transition as filed. Maintain 7000, departure frequency is offline, squawk 3525.
US Air 1549, maintain 7000 after departure, squawking 3525.
Yes, Air 1549 to be back correct, descent runway 28 right for departure, and advise I'm ready to push.
Okay to clean up.
1549 advising on ready to push. Thank you, sir.
Portland ground, get a Alaska 303 clear on Tango Gate, Charlie 9er.
Alaska 303, taxi to gate Charlie 9 via Tango.
Tango all the way to the gate, Alaska 303, thanks. I don't know why, but he won't do the after landing flow. Let's see if I can force him to do it here. After landing procedure. Do it. There we go. Forced him to do it. Alright, so Tango just straight ahead here and then around the left side of the second concourse. And there we go. So nice landing in the end. Yeah, it was a very unstable approach. I managed basically by 500 feet, I managed to have it kind of on the glide slope, but I was getting the sync brake warnings. It was VMC, so I was kind of willing to kind of overlook it, and it was just poor planning on my part. I did not... I should have had the aircraft configured soon. We ended up gaining speed, and I couldn't get the aircraft configured. So if I ever do that approach again, I think we're going to aim to have the aircraft at least gear down and flaps 15 before we get to paper. That way we can do, it looks like, I'm not sure if it was a steeper than standard descent or if I was just too slow getting the descent. I'm not sure if that was the case. I should have looked at it more carefully. Let's see here. I'm just curious because it doesn't really give you reference, but paper at 3,000 is a little bit high. Might be a little bit high because it's just inside of it's just inside of 10 miles, so it might have been a little bit high to be there at 3,000. Yeah, it was not the best approach. I do appreciate the fun of trying to do a visual approach. The other thing too is I'm as of late I've lost a little bit of faith. Start the APU.
Starting the APU.
I've lost a little bit of faith in my first officer, and that I think is also problematic. Like, I'm not sure that he's going to do everything I need him to do quickly when I need it. He did actually do a pretty good job today. When I asked for stuff, he did it quickly. There was no hesitation. But last time, when there was all these lags and pauses when FS2 crew was running, it really kind of made it. It filled me with a little bit of skepticism of whether or not he's going to do what I need him to do when I need him to do it. And it's unfortunate. You got to have faith in your fellow crew member. If you don't have faith in your fellow crew member, you can run into all sorts of problems. And yeah, I've now been burned a little bit by the FS2 crew in the past, so now it's made me a little bit wary.
Okay, 1002, no further ACC available. 190 Unicom, 122.8.
Nice to see another airplane taxiing around, though.
Roger, 1802. Thanks for your service.
Nice to see a little bit of activity around the airport. We should stop putting this into standby every time we come here. All right.
APU on the buses.
Very good, thank you. All right, gate Charlie 9 should be down here towards the end. I think it's just on the other side of that 7-3. Let's see here. What does this say here? Charlie 17. And nothing failed too either. Whole flight back from DFW, nothing failed. So if you haven't joined the Discord already, make sure you join the Discord. I'm going to start taking suggestions for MELs. Equipment to fail. Is there really an aircraft parked on Charlie 9? Is he really parked on Charlie 9? I picked like one gate. No, he's parked on Charlie 7.
3 minutes.
Lights and doors.
Check.
I'm going to start departing with MELs, but something failed at the beginning of the flight, just to provide some interest, some difference in my flying. So the next two legs are going to be pretty long legs going back and forth to O'Hare, but yeah, it does help when the runway is straight and level and not got a giant ridge across the middle of it, like last time. That did not go well last time.
Portland ground, US Air 1549, ready for pushback.
US Air, and it should be Cactus, my friend. Cactus. You're a Cactus if you're US Airways.
Yes, 28 right, please.
Beautiful. It's off. Generators are off bus. Submit my flight, thank you. Shutdown checklist.
Standby.
Shutdown checklist.
Shutdown checklist. Fuel pumps off. Propane off. Hydraulic panel set. Flaps.
0. Up.
Parking brake.
Set.
Engine start levers.
Cut off.
Weather radar.
Off.
Off. Shutdown checklist complete.
Woohoo! We're here. That wasn't too bad, really, in the grand scheme of things. I can't complain.
Checked.
Okay, that's enough. That's enough out of you. Go say goodbye to the pastures. Oh, there we go. But we made it, and yeah, no catapult, no cartwheeling down the runway today. That's good. That's a plus. Yeah, so let's hit submit on this, and because I think when I hit submit on this one, I'm going to get a promotion. So let's see here. Flight. Submit flight. Yes. Boom. Your flight has been submitted. Congratulations, you have been promoted to First Officer. You can view your new contract via the link on the dashboard page. Well, thank you. How many points do I need? Probably 5,000 to be a senior first officer? Yeah. So I'm going to need a lot more points here. 5,000 points. So it's going to take me a while to get up there. But nevertheless, we have got our first promotion here. My hourly salary is now up to $37.05. I don't remember what it was before, but I think that's an increase of $6 or $7. So that's going to make it a little bit quicker to accumulate money. I've got $4,000 in the bank account. Not doing terrible. I'm thinking once I get $5,000 in the bank, I think I'm going to do financial education. This will get me an extra 0.5% on every paycheck. So it'll be a 0.5% raise. Really on $37. That's 60 cents. Am I doing the math right? No, it's about $1.50 higher extra credit, which is not much, but it's just one of those things that's gonna sort of add up over time. But yeah, try to accumulate a little bit more money over the long run. But friend request received. I received a friend request from user NuclearChet748. NuclearChet748. You're not even talking to me, but here you are. So let's go into that community page. Let's accept that. Takes a couple seconds for it to do this, but NuclearChet rejected. Because that's the kind of guy I would be. Rejected. No. You didn't fly with me today. You get nothing. Nothing. No, that was actually quite fun. I enjoyed that. Let's have a look at the logbook here as well. I got a pretty good score on that, but definitely the landing lights, I think I threw off on that. So 97 points. The 76 was mostly due to that cartwheeling down the runway in DFW. But here we are. Beacon light on. I didn't get that one in time. Landing rate 339. I thought it was a pretty good landing actually after all. I didn't think it was really all that bad, but okay. Apparently those are the two things I lost points on. It's not too bad though. At the end of the day, much better than the last time around. Got me quite a few points, which is good. So got us a promotion to first officer. We are now a full-fledged first officer. You are watching it. But yeah, there we go. So yeah, we are now promoted first officer. Hooray! My first promotion in a pilot's life, chapter 2. It took me a while to get here because I do it all live on stream in front of you guys. I don't do a single leg without you guys here, and as a result, it takes a while to get through these legs. It's not something that happens instantly. It takes me quite a while, but that's okay. I'm enjoying the ride. I'm enjoying this. That was a pretty nice flight overall, except for that visual approach, which obviously was a little bit poorly planned on my part. So, you know, just a little self-review there. I should have gone back and looked more carefully at the altitude and been ready. The trouble was I also didn't have any vertical guidance. I should have put like an altitude at antenna there that would have kind of given me some better vertical guidance. I am so dependent upon it now. That's the sad truth of it. I am so dependent upon vertical guidance to judge my arrivals and depart. Thought I requested deboarding already. Why aren't you guys driving okay? There it goes. Yeah, I'm so used to having vertical guidance that I have a hard time getting by without it now. I expect it, even just pappies, just something to look at. So I was a little bit behind the 8 ball when we hit paper there. I should have been more prepared for it. So I definitely was, yeah, I definitely wish I had been a little bit more prepared. I know that now for the future. Next time I will definitely be more prepared for it. I'll be more ready. I'll try and fly this approach one more time and try and prove that I can do it next time a little better. But yeah, I wasn't happy with that. It wasn't inherently unstable. It met the stable criteria for my airline just barely. The fact that we kind of got on slope by 500 feet, but it was not great. We were really struggling to get down and lose speed the whole way down. So next time, be better configured before we start down, before we hit that fix it paper. I was kind of I was chatting too, but I'm not gonna. That's my fault. I shouldn't let myself get distracted. So I'm not gonna throw that out there as an excuse, but as perhaps as a reason why it happened the way it did, and maybe I should in the future put more emphasis on really respecting the sterile flight deck. If I want it to be a realistic simulation, really we need to respect that sterile flight deck below 10,000. You finally, the trouble is like your head shoot, man, you got here just as you know, I was kind of getting into the sterile area, and I wanted to have a chat with you because you just showed up just in time for the arrival. I wanted to at least be able to talk to you a little bit, but so you know, that's my fault for making that choice and making that decision, and I'm gonna you know, I live with the consequences of that and learn from it. Next time, make sure we have a better plan in place for the vertical descent, and yeah, make sure we have a bit better respect for the sterile flight deck procedures. Once we get past 10,000 feet, we really need to focus on setting up for the arrival, making sure that everything's going to fly smoothly. Yeah, but other than that, I think overall the flight went very well. I thought it was a pretty nice flight overall. Lots of nice stuff to chat about. Yeah, we're as I pointed out before, our next leg is all the way out to Chicago, so it's actually even a little bit farther than DFW. DFW is about 1,400 miles. Chicago is about 1,500, so it's about another 100 miles. It's basically about the same time. It's going to be about a 4-hour flight and about a 4.5-hour stream again. So probably next week. I'm hoping next week I can set it up on Tuesday. That's my thought right now. Barring anything kind of getting in my way and coming up at the last minute, but that's my plan right now. I'm off during the week, the middle 3 days of every week pretty much, so I'll probably plan for Tuesday next week. I'm going to probably set up this stream, maybe even Monday, and head from Portland out to DFW. But in the meantime, that was tons of fun. I enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Head Shoot Man, Nuclear Jet, appreciate the support, and we will definitely join you guys next week, hopefully. As I said, I'm going to plan on Monday, maybe Tuesday. I have to figure out exactly what works best for me, but one of those 2 days, we're going to hop in this airplane and we're going to take it back to Chicago O'Hare. Beautiful FS Dream Team scenery out there, and yeah, a bit of a long flight again, but nevertheless, just one more step. That's how airline flying goes. For now, we're going to head to the hotel, go grab ourselves dinner and drink at the bar, and you know, enjoy our layover here in Portland, but we will definitely do it again next week. So thank you guys for watching, appreciate it, and we'll catch you out there on the VATSIM. And Head Shoot Man, nice job signing up for VATSIM there and passing the test there. Yeah, don't be afraid to sort of start out with listing at some of these airports, but you know, grab an airplane, grab a small airplane, and just go fly a circuit, just to kind of get over it, get your first kind of taste of it. Pick the quieter airports if you're actually going to go out there and do it. Like Portland today would be a great day. It's only ground controller, there's no tower controller, but even just to talk to the ground controller, get in a taxi out to the runway, go to a circuit, come back, land, taxi, and again, get used to it. Yeah, it's just do the basics. Start with some stuff that's really easy. Don't do super complicated stuff in the beginning. I think the biggest thing that gets people in trouble on VATSIM is they overestimate what they can do. They overestimate their abilities and or their aircraft's abilities. You know, if you know you've got an airplane that's not a particularly good one to fly, you know your airplane before you get out there on VATSIM, because the expectation is you're going to be able to do things reasonably well without a whole lot of input from the controller. You know, the controller's job is to give you space to occupy. It's your job to use that space properly and correctly to get you to and from the runway. So if you're not familiar with an airplane, don't go fly VATSIM the first few times you fly. Go get used to it, learn it a little bit, then go out on VATSIM. You know, first times on VATSIM, like I said, I highly recommend grab a 172, or even a you know, Cirrus or a Diamond or something. Just go out to circuits. Just have a little bit of fun. Do some circuits, some very basic stuff. If things get out of control, you're right close to the airport. You can land quickly, and if things really go sideways, don't hesitate to press the disconnect button. I mean, I don't like to see people disconnect, but if things are really not going well and you're really not able to figure out what's going on with an airplane, sometimes you have to disconnect from the network so you don't ruin it for everybody else while you're trying to figure out your own airplane. I've had people do that, come back on 5-10 minutes later, okay, we got the autopilot fixed, I figured out what's going on, we're en route again now, you know. Play nice with other people, respect other people, and you'll have tons of fun on this network. Yeah, and you can always press the disconnect button. You know, if it really, I've had a couple times where like things have just gone sideways, and I'm like, I can't deal with this and deal with controllers as well at the same time. Very rare, but it has happened. There was one time where I was on an approach, and the guy cleared me for a terribly tight visual, couldn't get the airplane slowed down, had to
Crew deboarding started.
ended up having to do a go around because the guy vectored me in way too tight, and just was not being a very good controller. So I ended up disconnecting and just do my own circuit, come back and try it again, because I couldn't deal with his controlling. It was just not very high quality. And sometimes that's the way it is. And sometimes they're just busy and they get distracted too. So sometimes you just got to be ready to just pull the plug and just say, no, not working for me today. But I wish you good luck. You know, get out there, try it. Hopefully have some fun with it. And yeah, hopefully I'll get some control sessions in this weekend. This weekend might be tough because I'm kind of busy, not in long layovers. But anyways, we will hopefully catch you out there on the network and see you on the stream next week. Enjoy the rest of your week, the rest of your day. Breathe easy. Don't exert yourself too much outside, and have a good rest of the afternoon.